Hey, everyone. Welcome to another Friday night bee chat. I'm going to go ahead and get in here and set up the other link. Hope everybody's doing good. Um, so, all right, the chat is pinned up, or the link, I mean. Trying to get it straightened out. Come on. There we go. Hey, Lee. Hope everybody had a great week so far. It's been cold here in Maryland. And tonight, we're supposed to get another 3 inches of snow overnight. So we'll see how that works out. And all that. So that is what is happening here. Haven't really had any chance to get into the bees and check anything out. Just been too cold. Actually, it snowed just past. Hey, Robert. This past Tuesday, we had about 2 or 3 inches. Of course, it was gone by that afternoon. And there's Mr. Dave Lewis. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
All right. Have take and check your YouTube side and turn off the volume, or is that? I hear something in the background. I'm not sure if that's what that was or not. Doesn't sound like it is now.
That was.
Oh, it was. Okay. Looks like you got some nice looking horizontal hives there.
Yeah, I got 6 of them.
And
one
all
of these
that.
days I'll get some more built.
So you build them yourself?
Yeah. They're not hard to build.
Yeah, where are you at? Where are you located, David?
Central New York. I live 20 miles east of Syracuse in Canastota, New York.
From Syracuse? Okay. So is it snow up there right now?
Oh yeah, that's a picture a few weeks ago, but it's current.
Pretty much current. Yeah, well, it's going to be snowing here tonight.
It's at least that much. Yeah.
So, do you do any Langstroth hives at all, or just all horizontal? What's that?
See, I do have 8 vertical hives and 6 horizontal hives.
Okay. All right. It's another alert. So, what do you want to talk about tonight? What do you got? Any questions that I know you've been coming on here the last several weeks that I see in the chat a lot and everything.
Yeah. I just thought I'd show my face tonight.
Yeah. Hey, Lynn. Yeah. So with your horizontal bees now, they're long langs, right? With like a regular Langstroth frame in there.
Correct.
Now, are they like two, like I've seen some of them that are like a deep and a medium together. Are they really long, like a Layens hive? Or are they just a normal?
No, it's just a normal deep Langstroth hive
Mhm.
frame.
Do you have? I don't know. I've seen over the years. Um, you know, different. You have, you now everybody seems to be going to the standardized frame. It used to be, it was a framed or a top bar hive, I'll call it, and that never seem to. Hey, David, um, seemed to never work out, and a lot of people, um, bees died and everything like that. Then they went to the, like you say, the Langstroth frame. Are you seeing? Do the bees go horizontally instead of vertically? It's just as easy, or do
I, I believe so.
you have pretty much success rate as far as your uh, bees surviving in them boxes?
Well, the yellow one back there was my first one that I built in
Mhm.
2019.
All right.
And the winter of 2019 to 2020, um, I did an inspection on March 1st because it was like a 60-degree day.
Hmm.
And I came back 2 weeks later, and somehow I must have rolled the queen
Right.
because I had emergency uh, queen cells.
Right.
And there's no way in at that time of March that a queen is going to get mated
Hmm.
because we still have basically 2 more months of
Winter.
a winter.
Yeah, I was just going to say that here, if it was in March, by the time that queen hatches out, you might you might be able to, have it April. They would go out and be able to mate, but not in your area.
No, no. Um, so that was my first year. I started off with one nuke. I split it uh, twice, and um, I lost both vertical hives that I had that winter, and I lost one of them by combining it at the end of fall, and I haven't done any combined since then.
Right. I'm gonna go
Uh,
ahead and answer this for
yeah,
Morris here. Yes, I mean you put the pollen patties in. That's going to help your queen and about brood rearing, which in turn helps the cluster. So I would say yes, go ahead and put them in there. I mean, they're in. He's up there close to Rochester, New York, I believe it is. Where Holly. I looked him up last week. Yeah, they're starting to brood up now. Not much, but some. So it will help. And I don't think you're going to have any hive beetle problems right at this time because it's so cold. So I would go ahead and do that. I would only put in maybe a quarter of a pound. Let's say a strip no more than about 2 or 3 inches wide, and do it that way. So anyway, but so you lost the hives the first time, and then went ahead and
yeah. It took 2 months to get the yellow long hive requeened, but I
right,
did um, because March 1st the there was bees galore in the long hive, and
right.
um, I've
Well,
I've I've always heard from people, back 5 years ago, it was like, well, long hives are nothing more than bee coffins.
I never actually heard him say that before.
Oh, I did.
Well,
Um,
you can, you can keep bees at anything.
yeah,
It can be a hollow tree. If you want to play around with that. Hey, Jeremy, Good to see you.
My thoughts are now, you know, you have all these people, at the time talking down on long hives, and it's like uh, you keep bees through the winter in a single deep brood box.
Right.
What's the difference?
That's right. And then we there's hey DNN, Dan. Um I got a friend of mine. She has long langs because of back problems.
Yeah,
And I think what she does is she has a follower board and she condenses that hive, let's say, into 10 frames. It's the same identical thing as a single brood chamber management, and it works for her.
yeah. I have 2 inches of insulation in the top of all my hives. I have no space between the inner cover boards and the top, and that 2 inches. I mean, it might be a 1/4 inch space at the most, but I keep it as close as I can, and I
You don't
have
have any, as far as your roof goes, it's not a cathedral type roof type of thing. It's solid when it comes
it's
down.
it's basically at right as I want to say the bottom of the roof is
Mhm.
flat and it's against the flat boards.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a different style of, and then of course the roof is full of insulation.
Yep.
I know that my friend Donna, um, hey Joey,
Hey,
Hey,
I
Joey.
know, I know my friend Donna. She had
oh,
her husband build the same thing. It's got insulation in the roof. She actually has insulation around the walls, and I'm not sure about I think there is a board or something that she can take out in the bottom to drop it, to clean the bottom of the hive out and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And she's doing quite well with it. Now that's something that I have been researching here lately a little bit more. Bill Heschbeck, he lives up in, I think it's Connecticut. I talked with him last Saturday at a conference. Actually, I had him zoom into our local club meeting a couple months ago, and he talks. And he has wrote, I think, a book or something about the condensing hive, meaning no upper ventilation, insulation on the roof and around the sides, three sides, and where he's taken his science or his experimentations along with Tardif, who's up in the Yukon, where he's put in, I don't know, 30 or 40 sensors in a hive and did some really serious citizen science. And basically, um, you got the insulation. He creates a heat dome with inside the hive, which helps the bees survive the cold winter. They're in a hot area. Their expirations when they're breathing, it does have moisture in the air, but there's no cold surface, especially on the roof, for that to condense because of insulation. And the insulation factor on the roof, I think I read it was 30 R30, and then the sides were R10. As the sides get a little bit colder, the moisture condenses on the sides. The bees can actually take that and drink the moisture and use it to dilute their honey so they can eat the honey better.
Yeah.
And also, if they don't drink it, it'll actually drain down the sides of the hives, and it won't drain on top of the bees, as we all have been kind of taught for 30 some years or more, that you ventilate to get rid of the moisture so it doesn't, so the bees will survive, because you can't, wet bees don't survive and stuff. So that's something I've been looking at. And he had a good presentation when he zoomed in with a live presentation. It was pretty much a repeat, a little more restrictive because of time constraints at the conference. He didn't go over every detail, but now his concept It's not really new. I found out that he's read books, and there's been people talking about this same concept. The one guy wrote a book in 1880 or something like that, way back then. They didn't know all the science particulars about it, but they understood what the theory behind, I guess you would say, behind it was. And so I'm going to take I have a license hive here, which is a polystyrene, a no upper ventilation. It's all, of course, insulated, and it works just fine. The one thing that I got to talk to him, and I said, well, we take the inner cover off. I said, well, if you put the insulation on top of the inner cover, he said that the inner cover will still be cold. So I said, okay, I'll put a shim that's insulated on. And he said, well, he found out the hard way that the bees came up and they cling to the insulation because it's warm. And of course, the heat is there in the top of the hive. And he pulled the lid off, I guess, in the wintertime up in Connecticut, I think where he lives. And here's 4 pounds of bees that go dropping off of the lid onto the ground. So he kind of lost his hive there, or at least he tried to pick some bees up out of the snow. So he basically he called it an emery shim, and I said, well, you're talking about a screened insulated inner cover. And then he said, put that on, then put the insulation on. That way the bees don't cling on to the insulation. I got to thinking about that. I said, in my license hive, they use a pollen trap that was been cut in half and put that on. And then you put the insulated top on. And that is the inner cover that keeps the bees from going up into that domed top, putting bird comb in. I said, well, maybe I can just use a pollen trap on my nuke and cut it down the middle. And then I got enough for 2 hives. And then I happen to have some medium nuke boxes, and I will put 2-inch styrofoam insulation board in there. I found at Home Depot sells a 2-inch insulation. It's rated for R13. So that's my new endeavor. That's my new endeavor and everything.
R13 with the 2-inch insulation.
Yeah, it's 2 inches thick, but it's rated for R13.1 and all. Now, normally 2-inch thick foam board, either the pink or the blue or whatever, is R10.
Correct.
But I don't know what this is R13. So, and I thought about, well, I do a lot of mediums in my hives behind me there. They're all mediums. You run all medium boxes. And then I used to run about half and half medium and deep 5-frame nuke boxes to sell. And then over the last several years, the trend has been going back to the deep nuke boxes. So I still run some medium nukes for myself. And I've got these medium nuke boxes sitting in the shed on the shelf. And I'm like, hey, I don't have to build anything that's already built. And I can put the foam insulation, make it just real snug and push it down in that box and we're good to go type of thing. That's what I'm figuring on. Hey, James. How's the hive lifter? Well, it's in my basement. I'm looking at it. That's as far as it goes.
I watched that video this morning.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I have considered 10-frame license equipment. I actually am going to be buying more equipment for 2 more honey hives. I'm expanding from 12 to 14 and downsizing my nuke operation a little bit, and actually still balancing out to where I have 30 hives. The problem I find with license and any polystyrene hive is the fact that when you're using a ProVap, whatever, you have a tendency, you got to be very careful or you'll melt the hive and all that. So, but I thought about it here recently, about doing it that way instead of buying wooden. What do you got? Acorn stuff there, David?
No, this came from Hilco today.
Is that triple waxed?
I can't believe how much wax is on here. It's well waxed.
How much is it a case?
I just bought 10 of them.
Oh, okay.
They're about $4.20 a piece or something like that.
That's high. So, Joseph, it arrived, as you've probably seen on the video.
Yeah, I saw it. You look like you've been doing it for a long time.
What's that? How to do it?
Yeah, that thing did good picking that empty box up like that. Usually it kind of grabs those boxes, those light boxes.
Well, if you noticed on that film, one side kind of dropped. I don't know just why, but
yeah.
But I after 2 years of watching you and Mike Berry and all that about how to bring them arms in, where they fold back and then hit those box handles and stuff like that and all that kind of stuff. Hey, Laura, good to see you on tonight. And
that's a good looking machine you got. I think it's going to be good for you.
I think so too. And I got to thinking about it today. Where the battery housing is, or the electronics and stuff in there. I guess it's a battery, most likely. Hey, Nancy. It's a little heavy, but then I got to thinking about it. Well, when I put heavy boxes on the front of it, it's sort of going to balance that out, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
you'll figure that out when you start adjusting that load, the height of that load, and get it where you don't feel all that. You don't have to fight it
and all that. So that's what I got to thinking about tonight or this afternoon. I have to really, I've got the gist of it and all that, but it's when, like you say, when you put a load on it and then you find out more, the inner workings of it, be much more different about it and stuff like that. Thanks, Brian. And but I think it's really going to be nice. I mean, I can go in there and pick up, like when I set up my highs in the beginning of this spring, I'm going to do it differently because I'm assuming that my bee population is going to be just like it was last spring, where it was, way more bees than I've ever been used to because of Apis Biologic. And my game plan for this is to go in, take the top box off, and first smoke the bees down good and take that top box off, go through the middle box and pull all the cat brood out that I can find. Let's say it's 95% cat brood. And then I'll have an extra box sitting there, I believe. Put that in a box, separate that out, go through the top box, pull all the cat brood out of that, and then take whatever else is left in that top box and put it in, the middle box. And then I'll put the queen excluder on, and I'm going to put at least one or maybe two honey supers on, depending on the bee population. If the bee population is very, tremendous amount, I'll put two honey supers on, and then take the top box that I originally took off, which is a brood chamber box. I'll put that up on top with the cat brood frames that I had taken out of the first two boxes, and that will become my bait box to draw the worker bees and nurse bees up through the honey supers and to cover that brood area. And that will alleviate the population pressure in the lower two boxes and stuff. Let's see. I was looking at Brian's. It says, how will you use your use of Apis change this spring? I was just going by what Doug from Doug Lawman, the beekeeper up in Canada, was talking about. He said that they had used it last year, and some hives really responded, and other hives didn't. So that kind of got me. I won't say I'm worried about it, but now this year, the difference from last year and this year. Last year, I only gave them a couple gallons of Apis mixed in with the sugar water. This year, I did all the sugar water every gallon I gave to my hives all had sugar, had Apis biologic put into the hive or into the sugar water. And then, of course, I put it into the hive. So I'm still expecting that the bees are going to be super populated, and I'm planning on 2 supers per hive to give them space and draw them up into the 2 supers along with the brood box up on top. And then I will come back. I don't know whether it'd be the same day or not, because bees will move up pretty darn quick with it. If you go down the row of 12 hives, by the time you get done, you've lost, you've probably been at it for a couple hours when you're first doing it, something like that. You could go back probably and check that situation. But my game plan is to have those extra bees up in them 3 boxes. Then take the hive lifter, pick all 3 boxes up as a unit. That way you're not disturbing all them bees in each individual box, putting them up into the air or whatever. And then you can get into the 2 bottom supers and check that bottom brood box. And all. Now there's Doug. All right. He just ordered Apis to do 800 liters, which I'm not sure just how much that is in gallons. Or 8,000 liters, yeah. So,
Right.
what happened to Philip here?
His aunt died, I think it was.
Huh?
His aunt had passed away.
His aunt or his mom? I don't know. I missed that.
I may have read it wrong. I was trying to catch up with these chats, and I saw it.
Yeah, I didn't miss it. I missed it. Hmm. I don't know. I missed.
Yeah, his aunt passed away.
Okay. Sorry about that, Phil. So, and hey, Ripple Effect. And everybody that sent me, Joey, I know you gave me honey at Nobby, and Brian from Flower Street did, and I know that Phil did. We had our big tasting this past Wednesday, the February the 14th, and it went over very well. And I know they were tasting Brian from Flower Street's cream and honey, and also there were several comments on um, Phil's honey from RTX Honey out in Texas. They were tasting that quite a bit. People liked the flavor there on that. And of course, I had hail hives and all these different ones. Uh, Berry Best honey. It was some of tallow, and then Lee's honey was some tallow, and those two different honeys actually tasted a little bit different. Even though it's tallow, it was from different parts of of that state, which has a different flavor about it at the time. Now these were some of the honeys that were given to me last year. But anyway, we had a big time. We had 51 or two people show up. And we had a honey tasting area where we get all the flavors that I brought in. Some other folks that other members brought their honeys in, their creamed honey, their running honey in. We actually had I'll say a black jar. Our version of a black jar was to take a 1 pound honey bottle, plastic, and we put the guy who was in charge, he put the little top that's got like a cone on top, like for a honey bear. And we wrapped everybody had a label on their bottles, but we wrapped the bottle in aluminum foil with some tape around the top so it wouldn't fall off. And I think we had at least 13 or 15 entries there. One of my members, friends up the road here, won the contest. And then we had a mead and any other product that had honey in it, let's say cookies or something like that. And that was quite well received. And then we had a honey exchange, kind of like at Nobby, where if you bring in 2 bottles, then you get 2 tickets to go when your number's picked to go over there and pick 2 bottles from somebody else back, or 2 different people and stuff like that. So it was quite a nice time and everything. And all right. So we got 96 people on tonight. That's great. I don't know what the likes was. Phil said there was only 33 and all. So did your gift basket do? I don't know if we had a gift basket that I know of right off the top. Brian.
So y'all had a mead tasting too?
Yeah, we did. There's one member that does a lot of mead in different taste, and then there must have been a few other people that had different flavors of mead and everything. I know that last year, Lee down at Hive Life, he had his little jars of mead. So I had brought some back, and I actually give that to Doug, who is the mead maker in the group. I said, all right, here's one for you, Doug, personally. And then here's one to let other people taste it and stuff like that. And hey, Sandy, and all that. So it worked out well and everything. So it was a fun time. It went for, I don't know, a good 2 hours. Well, we were done by 9 o'clock, but we started at 7 and got there about 5:30 and set that it was a new place, a new venue. It was the local extension office, farm extension office. And we set the tables up and put different colored tablecloths on them and stuff. So, stuff wouldn't get messed up. And, the ladies in the club, because since it's Valentine's Day, it was supposed to, the slogan is bring your honey to taste some honey, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I know the one girl, she brought in these little hearts, that are, real thin paper, that different like red colors and silvered on. She sprinkled them around across the different tables. It was a very nice, pleasant looking fair and everything. And everybody seemed to have a lot of fun. So, and Jack, he's making dinner and he's listening in. All right, Jack, thank you much. Jack, are you the new member from SBA? I'm bad with names until I get to know everybody. But anyway, so Joey, anything happening your way? I know it's a lot warmer down your way. Hopefully,
Yeah, we've had some pretty days, but I hadn't been in any beehives in a little over a week. Uh, I guess I'm kind of laying back, knowing in a couple of weeks I'm gonna be wide open with them. Somewhere around March 1st, somewhere in there, I'll be getting ready to do splits.
really, that
I
early?
think so, yeah.
All right, and Beekeeping Bro wants to anybody started grafting and where you're located at. That'd have to be down in the deep south for sure.
I would imagine a couple of my neighbors around here is already starting.
You're down.
Sometimes they start a little early just to kind of get their cobwebs out, get started a little bit and just kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that somebody in Jacksonville, Florida, probably would have been grafting by now.
Oh, yeah.
I know that the Hardimans, which are down in around Vidalia, Georgia, just north of the Florida Panhandle, they start around February 14th. Now I'm talking me, not sure whether they're grafting. I do know that they're probably getting their mating boxes set up and things of that nature. And that's a couple of bees, and they usually have a double-sided mating box with a feeder in the middle. I showed them in my videos that one year, and where they put a couple of bees in there and put some feed in. So they might have started grafting by now. I'm not sure. It all depends on weather, just like everybody else. If it's a cool spell down in the deep south, they're not going to do too much. If it's warm continuously, everything will be good. Hey, Tom and Melissa. Let's see. I was on a chat with one of my groups here that I helped start one of my clubs, and we had Octavia from Kudik's Bee Farm, which is close to where Bob Walker lives, about an hour or so away. And he's still up in New York State. They will be moving down to South Carolina, I think, here in the next week or so. And they will start, they're going to move. What was it? I think it was 7,000 nukes from New York State down to South Carolina. And I think it was either 5,000 or 7,000 nukes. And that's what they'll start out with, about, raising queens and things of that nature and all that. What's that, Lynn? That they're coming down to South Carolina on Sunday. Lynn was the Greater Baltimore Beekeepers is a beekeeping club that myself and Lynn and several other people started. It's an internet-based beekeeping club. We're trying to find a home as far as a physical home, but we had Octavia Zoom in. But it was amazing the amount of sheer, what would you say, numbers. I said something about starting grafting on March the 15th. And then that's what Octavia is going to do down there next to Bob's place. What was quite interesting was in his talk that they have to make up. They only have 6 weeks to make up nukes, and they have to make up 500 nukes a day,
Huh.
and that's 6 days a week, and 3,000 nukes per week. And then they have to do, I forget how many hundreds of queens. Of course, it's another team just doing the queens alone and all that. Yeah, yes. He's this coming. I guess it'll be this coming Sunday. They're going to be coming down next to Bob's house. So that's what's happening down there. I can tell Bob knows what's happening now. The bees are coming home. So, but yeah, it's different parts of the area. Like I say, tonight it's supposed to start snowing here. I don't know, 11, 12 o'clock at night. We're supposed to get about 3 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood. But next week, it's supposed to start up in the 40s by Sunday. So most of the snow, if it's on the ground, it's going to be melted and gone. And then by the middle of next week, it might be in the 50s, which will be nice. I'm kind of planning maybe this Saturday or Sunday, I mean. It's supposed to get up around 45 degrees. And oh, let's see. I did it on the 3rd. I might have to wait till next week. I did an oxalic acid treatment on, I think, the 3rd of February. So possibly either this weekend or the following week, I'll do another oxalic acid vapor treatment. And I think I'll be pretty much done for the year as far as treatment until, come March. I'll pretty much quit all that stuff. The last time I looked, I cleaned the bottom coroplast boards, and mite drops were like, I had a bunch of zeros and maybe 2 or 3 mites that I could find on one of the boards. So it looks like to me mites are in good shape right now. So Hail Highs, he says it's sprinkling right now. So
Yeah, it's been raining here this afternoon. It was kind of nice this morning, but after lunch it started just light drizzles. Well, when I said March 1st on the splitting, that's my target date. It could start then, or it could start on the 7th. I start kind of getting ready right then. And it kind of also, I don't do the grafting, so it kind of depends on what the man that I'm getting my sales from. I make a call to him, and when he tells me what day I can pick up X amount of sales, I'll do my splits a day or 2 prior to that. If the weather permits.
Right. Now, Icy Mountain, which is Sandy, she lives in Western Maryland. They're calling from 6 to 10 inches of snow there tonight. And she's about 3 hours from my house, I think. But she's right in the snow belt. Actually, when I was coming home from Nobby, we stopped and got to meet each other for the first time. And it was the time I left, had started to snow. It was snowing, and there was some stuff on. It was the roads were covered. Of course, it was nighttime, and I wasn't really what would you say? I didn't know the area that well, and everything. But we made it back to the interstate, which the interstate was down to 1 lane, and then we had previously booked a motel room down the road, I don't know, 20 some miles or so. Once we got past a certain place in the mountains, then the snow kind of quit. So the next day it was fine as far as coming home. But it was good to see Stanley. I met her and her husband. They live right there in the mountains of Maryland, Appalachia. So JW, how's it happening?
Done my thing. You know that.
You look like a big bee there with that yellow coat on.
Well, about a 240-pound bee.
Yeah.
We just finished up our snowstorm. It's coming your way.
Is it?
We started about 10:30 this morning and finished about 6 Central Time here. Yeah, we got about an inch and a half, 2 inches out of it, maybe.
Yeah, the weather guy was
Hey.
talking about the storm coming through Joey, where your storm, I think, JW, is kind of going north of us up into Pennsylvania. And then the storm that Joey had, which was rain, it's coming up and then it's kind of sort of coming up the coast. And because the other storm is getting out of the way, the cold air is coming down from Canada, which is, dropping the snow on me.
Yeah,
So,
I've told Philip before, if it wasn't for Texas, Louisiana wouldn't have any bad weather. All our bad weather comes from Texas.
and all that.
You need to change your background, JW, if it's snowing.
Yeah, well, we got it. I put out a little a short this afternoon. I don't know if it showed up yet or not. I uploaded it, but I just took it out my back door. It was about, I don't know, 10 seconds long. It really snowed hard but it's supposed to be back it was 58 yesterday here, and it's supposed to be back to midweek, supposed to be back up around 60, so it's hard on the babies.
What that? You mean the bees, you mean?
Yeah. That's the only babies I got. Them and cats.
Then the cats, I didn't know whether you had a few cattle there just to keep you in touch.
No, I pretty well cleaned them all up. So.
Yeah. But so it's got snow there. Is it going to get warm tomorrow then?
It's supposed to be down. It's supposed to get 17 tonight. It's 28 right now. They're saying it's going to get to 17 here tonight, and the high tomorrow, below freezing. But then Sunday it's supposed to warm up like in almost to 50 again. So
right,
it's just kind of Alberta Clipper or something coming through here.
Philip says you can't blame him, Joey. And all that. So
Joey, you mentioned getting a cells from a neighbor or something. You don't use any of your own cells? You don't?
Well, I don't graph, but yes, I do. Some of the splits that I do sometimes is a parallel or vertical split with the double screen board, and I'll let them make their own emergency cells. Some people don't like them. Yeah. I like them just as a lot better than my graphs. I tell you that.
Yeah.
But just you don't know what I'm doing.
You don't cut out any swarm cells of your own and put them in other boxes or anything.
I'll cut out swarm cells. I'll cut out the emergency cells they make. Just whatever.
That's what I do most of, so I didn't know.
Yeah. I can't graph, but I can cut cells.
Well, that's
So why can't you see, Joey?
What's that?
You can't see the cell.
Yeah, I have a lot of trouble trying to see down in that cell, even with those powerful glasses you get. Now, here's the thing. Ever since I was in the 3rd grade, I wore glasses, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And when I got in high school, I started wearing contacts, and that stopped my vision from getting any worse. And then they come out with the soft lenses, and I went with them. So I wore contacts most of my life, and with the contacts on in the beginning, I could see way out there or close up. And then later in life, it got where I started having to use readers. I could still see good all out here, just like this. Yeah. I can see this good. Or even way out there, I could see good. But when I did a lot of reading, I'd have to put helper glasses on. And finally, I got cataracts, so I had corrective vision done to get rid of the cataracts.
Mhm.
He told me, he said, when you do this, you're going to have to use reading glasses. I said, well, I do that already anyway. But before I did have that cataract surgery, you couldn't make a print too small for me to read. It could be stamped on back of a watch or a bracelet, little tiny stamps or writing. If I took my contacts out, I could see it with the bare eye. I could see it. And if I still had those eyes today, I could graph. But since I had that surgery, it takes everything I can do to see right here.
Really?
Yep.
Hmm.
These are like 1.5s just to see this screen right here. If I take these off, I can't hardly see that text over here.
Maybe you need to put the text on the other side, and maybe you can see
Yeah,
it.
maybe. Now, I would like to talk my wife into graphing because she can see pretty good.
Yeah, that's one thing I do enjoy is grafting and making queens. That actually I think that's more fun than all the rest of the beekeeping. It's a challenge, I guess,
Yeah.
is what I like. Hey, Darren, enjoyed your video about your inspection. I'd like to talk to you about your um, insulated shims that you made. They look good. Yeah, but so now everybody's got snow. You got rain. I'm going to have snow and all that kind of stuff.
Mike's got a question about ants in the fondant. I don't use it, so I don't know.
Can't help you.
I wouldn't think that, Mike, that they would have any ants in the fondant now unless you're in a warm area. I did have some ant problems, and I don't know. I tried coffee grounds, after you and it worked for a little bit, not a great lot, but then there's cinnamon. I've heard that. Whether that's actually works. And that's pretty much all I can tell you when it comes to that. Ed says they don't eat much. So they're just a nuisance. I do know sometimes they get into my inner cover where the boards are jointed together. They must have a board a hole in there and have a little life or a little area where they grow in there.
Okay. He says he's in Central California, so I don't have any problems so far.
We tried the cinnamon. Actually didn't work. There's Brad. Nancy's been asking for you, Brad. And I don't know. I don't know what else you could try. Now, Todd, it lives in California. He won't be on tonight. He had somebody roped him into doing something for I guess it's his work and all that stuff. So he won't be able to come in. He would be a good person to ask since he lives in the Fresno area and all that. Let's see.
See, Brad.
Yeah,
Brad
there's Brad.
uses 6 time glasses.
6X glasses.
Yeah, 6X.
I've got some 5X, Joey. I don't know if you're interested or not. I've got some 5X. They're jeweler's glasses and got a light up above them. That's what I use quite a bit. So if you want to try to craft with them, they're inexpensive. I got mine off of Amazon.
Well, I bought some a few years ago, and I tried them, but they just don't seem to work just right. I bought them off of eBay, and they just old Chinese things, and they just don't seem to work just right. They don't. The head brace is the worst part about it. I think if it had a better head brace with it, that glasses would actually do all right.
I have the helmet where it has a box that's got like 10 different powers in it.
Yeah.
And you snap them in, and then they'll fold up and down. What I found is these glasses here are my computer glasses, and they're fine for reading the distance between where I'm at and my computer screen. And my other glasses are sort of like a bifocal type glass. And between these glasses and that um, magnification unit, there's Lee's put up Amazon link there.
Okay. Cool.
Let me see what it looks like. Yeah, that's a different style that I have. But all that. Uh, but well, good to see you back. Or I see Queen Bee Honey's on there, which is Jeremy. Jeremy went out of. He's in West Texas. And what you got there, Dave? One of them magnification units?
Yeah, it's a microscope.
Yeah.
Just lights it up. You know, if you want to look at stuff in the frame, it interfaces with the phone. Nice
And
little thing.
it oh, okay, you're with your cell phone. I'm thinking the regular
Right.
house phone. Now is that wireless?
Yeah, no, it's Wi-Fi. Oh, it is wireless. Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Has a manual that comes with it. But that's one way to, set that up, and you could use it for grafting.
Mm-hmm. You could see your stuff better.
Yeah.
And all. And Bee Honey has to be Melissa. She uses a light that for sewing and quilting and stuff. So, anybody else like to come on tonight? Come on in. I know that Darren is out there. I'd like to sit there and talk to you, Darren, a little bit. He had gotten into his hives. I watched him on his video, and he had used quilt boxes, but he converted them to more of an insulated box with blue insulation and stuff. I thought it was, I had to talk to different people where sometimes they just put a piece of blue insulation on top of the inner cover, and then they put a telecover over top of that. And then I seen Darren, he had basically he took a quilt box and he stuffed it with the right size piece of insulation in it. I thought that was pretty nice because that way you have the solid boards on the side that sit on top of the next box below, and then you can just put your telescope and cover right over top of that, which I found that to be a much solid way of doing it and all.
I found the bees like to tunnel through the blue
Insulation.
insulation. So
And what
I
did you
now-
do? What did you do for that?
I have chickens, so I took feed bags and just cut a square to flop over the top of the box so that before it has stopped them from getting into the insulation.
Mm-hmm. So now, all right, because you got now this is on your lang or on your long lang or your
Now
regular.
this is on my verticals.
All right, so you don't have any inner cover on. You just put the insulation on top of that.
I still have the inner cover in there. I'm kind of realizing now I should take it out.
That's what I've been told
Yeah.
and all that. That's the best thing I can tell you about it.
Although when I did go to open one hive that I thought was dead, I pulled up the feed bag cover and it was like, oh, there's bees in here.
Mm-hmm.
I put it back down and closed it back up.
Well, there is a difference in that insulation, fellas. There's a hardcore insulation that the ants won't get into, or the bees won't eat through, and there's a soft core, and I think that thicker blue insulation in my area is a soft core there, David. And
Yeah.
that might make the difference.
Well, all I know is I had one guy say, put a screen inner cover on, and then you put your blue insulation on, and they can't get up to the insulation. And then he said some people have painted it with latex paint to, take care of that problem.
I don't know what I do.
Roy there, he
Go ahead, Joe.
has chicken feed bags. They say they chew through them and pull them out through the front door.
Yeah.
Glad for your comment, Roy. I don't think I've seen you in the chat, but I'm glad that you're here. Always good to have you. Well, folks, we're right at 99. Well, we were at 100, but that's really been some nice numbers. I mean, prior to the conference, usually averaged about 60. Now we're running around 100, which is great as far as new beekeepers. Anybody wants to come in, just click on the link there at the top of the chat and come on in, introduce yourself, and chat about most anything as long as it's bee related. And Brian, he does.
Yeah,
Brian
I only see 18 thumbs up on here so far, unless mine just hadn't updated.
Oh,
Come on, guys.
all I see is 10 on mine. Maybe
Maybe they find us a little boring. Joy.
no. I just took and redid
Well, they
it.
still need to like Charlie, whether they like us or not.
I don't know. I see 56 now. 56 likes.
Yeah.
Sting the like button. Anyway, he said he puts the foil tape on and all that.
I do like Ian Stepper. I use that. I call it bubble wrap. That Flex Tech is what I use for above my. Whether I use a spacer or I use candy boards, I put that on top of it.
Yeah.
So.
And Brian wants to know what I use for editing videos. I use Filmora. It's what Mike Berry uses, and I use it. It's I was trying to use a free one when I first started, DaVinci, I think it was called. I found it to be very difficult. Filmora is it's about $80 video, maybe $100 program.
It's easy to use.
It's
It's easy to use.
You use that, Joseph?
Yeah, I'm the one that put Mike Berry on it.
Okay. because when I went to High
And then-
Life,
And then I started learning things from Mike Berry.
How do you spell that, Joey? What's that? What is it, Charlie?
Film Mora.
Filmora. Okay,
it's
Filmora.
Filmora, Filmora,
I'm gonna write that down. I'll forget it before the chat is over.
and it's also it's actually made by Wondershare, WONDERSHARE.
Well, when I first started using it, that's what it was called, Wondershare. And then they about a year or two after I started using it, the Filmora name come
Yeah,
up. I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
there.
Brian, that's exactly right, Filmora. I believe it's version. I don't know.
What you have
12
to
or
be
13.
careful with, though, they will keep billing you on like upgrades. You have to be careful when you upgrade.
Well, I'm on-
keep getting bills.
I am on version. I'm on version 11, and they want me to upgrade, which I won't because I don't need any more. I don't use any fancy stuff. I just use cut and edit and do the
Yeah.
transitions that I like, and that's it.
Well, the thing, what they were doing, or what I heard later, what was happening, you couldn't really tell the difference between an update and an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And you might just think you're updating it when it's actually an upgrade version, and you'd get a bill.
Yeah, Brian. Yes, I keep all my videos and information on a external hard drive.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those. I labeled. I got several of these. This is Crucial. CRUCIL. And I was trying to find it's the ones that I've been using are 2 terabytes. And all.
I can't even remember the brand I use, but also with that Filmora. Now I could probably use a Mac, and I've only had the Mac for about a year.
Right.
Prior to that, it was a regular Windows that I used, but on this computer, I have to go in and remove cache, Filmora cache, because it will keep. I don't know how to change the settings. I need to try to figure that out where it'll only keep the cache for like 30 days or whatever. Because it'll get where I can't even reconcile a export a video. I'd go back and manually remove some of the cache.
Right.
That's gonna be a Lee thing. I might have to
go
see Lee.
Hey Brian, yes, it does have a music library. It's got picture library. You can download it, and on a trial version, it will have a watermark on your videos, but you can kind of figure it out. There are some music things and whatever different libraries in it that are free, and then if you want stuff, then you have to pay for certain things, and I've never paid for anything.
YouTube has songs too, music.
Right. And then, that kind of stuff. There's different libraries you can get music from that are free. So Phil, what do we got here? Insulation board?
Well, you guys were talking about bees chewing insulation, and I just, my video will be out on Monday, but I made some migratory covers, but I wanted them insulated. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I just took heavy duty Reynolds wrap, aluminum foil, and some spray adhesive, and I just sprayed it with pink foam, and it's like that. Here, I'll show you guys my. I finished them today, but let me show you the inner cover, or not the inner covers, the migratory covers that I built. I can only be on here for a minute. I'm smoking different kinds of meat for selling at the concession stand for my daughter's event tomorrow. But let's see. I don't know if there's enough light here, but you can see these inner covers. But I made a like a 1.5 inch shim. Let me get this over here in the light so you can see it. Let's see, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see you got them screwed on with looks like a washer there.
Yeah. So they're 1.5 inches. I hope that works. I'm still going to use the double bubble for an inner cover,
Right.
to keep the bees away from this. But this has the little, it's kind of like some of the commercial guys. It still has the little ledge there where I can put a pollen patty in there if I want to, or a fondant. But I just made this instead of a 3/8 inch shim, I put a 1.5 inch shim on it. So we'll see how that works. It's just something I'm trying out. But when you guys I wasn't going to come on, but when you guys got to talking about how you protect the foam insulation, I thought maybe that'd give you somebody some ideas.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I want to.
Yeah, I was wondering why you couldn't just use like that reflectant too, when they were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that was my original idea was to just do the double bubble.
Yeah.
But and I was going to use double bubble twice. I was going to use it where I used that foil, and I was going to use it as an inner cover. And then I got to looking at the price of it, and it's like $2 or more to just to get to cover the hive, and the Reynolds wrap is like 30 cents. So maybe in cheap.
Yeah.
On my migratories, I just glue that bubble wrap to the migratory cover.
Yeah.
No, it works pretty good for me.
Well, the
I've
big
got my insulation below that.
Yeah, I just like I say, I was looking at the screen inner covers. They were like $12 or better, and I was like, that's a lot of money. And and then I got to thinking about my license had this purple strap on it. I said, well, why not just use that?
Screened inner cover, Charlie, they're going to fill that up with propolis real fast.
Doesn't matter. I got it on that one hive, and yeah, they do. Well, they kind of regulate their heat that way.
I built some screens for moving bees, but I don't leave it on there because I don't want them to fill it up.
That's what happened in my long hives. I had the inner covers that I'd made for. All it was a 12-inch shelving board ripped,
Right,
to make them like 5-inch inner covers, and every other inner cover had a 3/4 hole with screen on it, just for ventilation. And it wasn't but just a few days, and little boogers had every one of them screens
Closed off.
Yeah.
They told me they didn't need them.
On my long hives, I had the same thing happen to me, Joseph. And it's like I don't even bother giving them ventilation in the top of the hive anymore.
Well, Brian C., was in the chat earlier, at least, he has a little screen at the top of all his colonies, and he actually will show where they fill them up and then they open them up again. If they need the ventilation, they'll open them up. If they don't, they'll close them up.
Yeah. Now, one thing I do know, if you leave that screen off, they may leave it because they kind of look at it as another entrance or exit, whatever you want to call it. But if you screen it, they're going to close it because they can't use it anyway. I had a knot hole come out one time on one of my boxes on the back side, and when that knot hole come out, you could put your thumb in it. And I told my wife when we put it there, she said, they knot hole right here, they coming in and out. I said, yeah, they'll have it. And we had just set them bees up in there out of a swarm trap.
Mm-hmm.
I said, they'll have that hole closed up next time we come out here. For 3 years, they used that as another entrance.
Mm-hmm.
They never closed it up. It was right in the middle of the box.
You know, I've got 3/8 holes that I drilled for my vaporizer to vaporize my bees with. I use that as an entrance and exit, you know,
Yeah.
all the time.
You're supposed to use a golf tee to close those up.
Yeah.
I've actually got some little 3/8 plugs, but I never use them. I just leave them. Let the bees use them.
Yeah.
Now, Tom and Melissa, they say they close up their inner cover holes. Do you have screening on those inner cover holes, Tom and Melissa? I don't know. I'm just gonna, like I say, I'm gonna on my nukes. I'm gonna use a medium nuke box, put the insulation in there, and I think I might leave the insulation up in the box about a half inch, and I'm gonna get at least, I'll say, one propolis trap and put that down and see whether or not that will work. Um, like it did in the license hive. You were saying the Reflectex fill is expensive.
Yeah, it is kind of, for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That little roll I have out there, 25 feet long by 16 inches wide, is $20. But some of the bigger rolls are really expensive. It doesn't seem to be, when you buy more, it doesn't seem to go down much in price. I got that at Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
How big is it? 16 by 20?
25 feet long.
16 by 25?
It was $20 for that one.
I'm wanting to get some and put on my some of my lids on my swarm traps are starting to warp a little bit.
Mhm.
And I want to get some of that and put on there to kind of seal that lid off good.
I got the 16, the width of a box is 16 and a quarter. You can buy the 24 inch, but it's like, I think it's 25 or maybe 30, something like that. But yeah, it's right at $1 a foot.
Right. Hmm.
I bought a 4-foot.
Roy said he paid $16 at Home Depot.
What is?
Is that for the Reflectex, Roy?
How wide was that and long was that, Ron? And they got 10-foot pieces for like $9. That piece I bought was 20 for a 25 foot by 16.
Home Depot's probably and Lowe's is probably the last place you want to go to buy inexpensive building supplies.
You're probably right.
Years ago, when I was in the air conditioner business, I wanted to build me a wooden toolbox with drawers in it, and for the back of my truck, had sliding drawers in it, go all the way to the front to the back on the bed, and I could still haul bigger equipment on top of that. They just have drawers just for all my parts and stuff. And I went to a regular hardware store and priced everything. And my wife was going to Home Depot the next day. I had all those prices. I said, look at all this stuff. And I said, whatever's cheaper. I said, if it's basically all cheaper there, just go ahead and get it all. And I said, if anything is a lot cheaper at the hardware store, we'd just get it at the hardware store or vice versa. And when she come back, the only thing she come back with was the 2 pull handles. The hardware store, the little hometown hardware store, was 20. I mean, the whole thing didn't cost me $100 to build or less, and it was $20 cheaper, at least $25 cheaper
Hmm.
at the little hardware store out in the middle of the country than it was at a big box store.
Yeah, We have Ace Hardware here, but it's more expensive than Home Depot.
Who?
Ace Hardware.
Yeah, I find them to be expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
aces are.
They're convenient, and they always got good help there. And they know where everything is. So if you're in a hurry, or if it's not a very big item, it's a great place to go.
But no, but that's what I'm planning on doing as far as trying this insulation type thing. Main thing I'm trying to do is, like right now, it's cold. It's 30 degrees. If I can give a sort of a heat dome for those bees to stay in the middle of the winter like that and reduce their stress, I think it would, work for good for everybody. I mean, I've always had good luck in getting the bees through the winter most of the time. And all. I know there's one nuke out there that's dwindling quite well, so probably just write that. I've already wrote that one off. So, but that was my fault. I put some formic on it, and I forgot to take the interest reducer out, or missed it actually. It killed most of the good. They would have been strong if I hadn't had that. Well,
See, Rodney said he uses USPS mailing bubble envelopes.
Oh, that's smart.
that's expensive. You got to buy them.
They might be saving stuff that comes
Yeah,
in. I
people
don't know.
send to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten some packaging. We used to get this. Now this isn't cheap, but we used to get these meals delivered. They're ready. You cook them yourself, but they send you all the ingredients. It was
Right.
like a weekly, and they used to come in that bubble wrap stuff, and I would take it and save it. I've got a bunch of it out there. I need to see if I can use it. Yeah.
Get rid of the meals, did you? Too expensive.
Yeah, we quit getting them. It's one of those things that's real neat for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden you just get tired of even making those, and they start about
Mhm.
just staying in your refrigerator and going bad.
Yeah, Bill talked about the summer insulation. Basically, he uses his um, inner insulation top year round and keeps them. It just never takes it off. He has a screen board, and then he has the insulation with the lid on top of that, and that's pretty much it.
I never take mine off.
Well, that's why I'm insulating mine is for August, not for winter.
Yeah, because heat, direct heat is worse than it is the cold, isn't it?
I do it also for to force the condensation to the sidewalls too, because we will get some cold spring days that would cause a lot of condensation on top, but mainly it's for July and August.
Really? Okay. Yeah, because I think Jeremy from Queen, what was it called? Queen Bees.
Queen bees, yeah.
Yeah. He, Queen Bees. He did the same thing. Is to insulate because he's in West Texas, I think.
Right.
I don't know where you're. More towards Houston, isn't it? Central.
I'm central, but I'm near Dallas, and then my farm's a little bit halfway between Dallas and Houston.
He was saying the same thing. It was so hot out there that you actually insulated to get away from the heat.
Exactly. Any kind of barrier.
Say halfway to Dallas or Houston. That's still a long ride either direction.
That's what I was thinking. Long way to the farm, isn't it, Joy?
It is. It's an hour and a half at best, and 2 hours usually. So yeah, that's a long way. You can't go anywhere around here in less than 45 minutes.
Except maybe a clover leaf.
Well, you can run over to Fort Worth. It's not that far off, is it?
Fort Worth takes about 45 minutes.
Does it?
Yeah.
Where you're at? Okay.
And you can't ever tell when you're leaving one place and entering another now.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, Bruce Brown's talking about what is, I don't quite understand what's, I missed that.
The icy part of Texas, yeah.
Menards? Is that a place?
That's a hardware store. It's like a Lowe's.
Yeah, Menards.
Now they're actually a big lumber yard. They come out of Wisconsin. It's when they started, but they're all through the Midwest anymore, pretty much.
There's nothing like that around here. We got Home
see
Depot. That's it.
One of these guys here, Russell Abman, that lives fairly close to me, said he had trouble with it sweating. That reflectance. Russell, is that during the wintertime or?
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about that myself because some people say to use it as a gasket, and in my mind, if you use it as a gasket, you're creating a bridge for that cold air because it's going out to the outside, and you're not, it's a conductive material. It would seem that it would bring the cold inside.
Well, isn't that reflected? Actually, one side does one thing. You're supposed to put it a certain way.
No, it's both the same.
I know the original ones that came out use a certain side that you put up toward the heat.
Yeah, they used to have it that way, but this new stuff is all
okay,
shiny on both sides. It's just like a bubble in the middle, little bubbles.
So I think mine, I'm going to let it be inside the walls. I'm not going to use it as a gasket. I'll let the bees use their propolis to seal everything off. Because in my mind, if you use it as a gasket, it's going to transmit hot or cold from the outside.
Yeah, I think it's more like reflecting versus conducting.
But I'm saying it's a metallic material, right?
No, it's a plastic material.
The silver's not a little aluminum coating.
I don't believe so. It might be, but it's if it is, it's so minute that it wouldn't really conduct very much.
Well, isn't that what Ian uses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say your aluminum foil on your migratory lids is probably more conductive than reflective is.
Yeah. Yeah. The aluminum foil is not going to the outside though. It's all
inside.
You're not talking about putting on the sidewalls, are you, Phil?
No.
Just the top's all you wanted on, in my opinion.
I'm going to use the reflectors as an inner cover on these lids.
That's what I do.
I'm gonna have both. I'm gonna have the aluminum above and that. So it's possible that cold transfers through that aluminum foil. But like I said, it's an experiment. It's not. I'm not trying to convince anybody that I know anything about it. It's something I'm trying out. I'm just doing the aluminum foil mainly to keep the bees from chewing it.
I recently saw a YouTube video of somebody with a long hive that had put weather stripping around the top. I might try that on my next ones.
That makes sense.
Yep.
There's what Roy does. He uses it year round as inner cover. Then he had 2-inch pink panther foam for the winter.
My 2 inches is on year round also.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's really the way I should go. Is maybe the bubble wrap would be cheaper than the propolis trap. You figure $2 maybe, or $1 versus.
I'm not going to discuss price on that stuff. If several years ago I got a 4 foot wide but 100 foot long sheet of that, I just cut off of it as I need it. But I couldn't tell you to go shoot me what I gave for it now. But I've had it for several years, and I just keep cutting off of it. So. But that's all I use for inner cover stuff, just like Ian Stepper does.
That's kind of what I've been thinking about going to, replacing my woodware inner covers as they go bad. Was going that route.
Only thing about that, Joey, is I use those inner covers for a lot of other stuff. Like if I'm harvesting honey, I'll use them as
I
a
do,
cap or the floor. And
I do too. That's the same thing. That's
getting rid of those is not going to be so simple for me.
I would still probably want to keep a few of them around for something like that, you know.
Matter of fact, if I'm storing comb, I'll screw an inner cover down to a one of those little furniture movers at Harbor Freight sale. Those little wooden things with the wheels
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah.
That works perfect. I screw those to that thing, and then I just start stacking boxes on it. And if it has a hole in it, I'll put some duct tape over it.
Yeah.
Like you said, you give me a hard time. Yeah, I'm a Yankee from North Louisiana.
But do you, Phil? Do you feed in the winter?
Yeah,
Feed
I
sugar
do.
Rex or candy
No.
board?
No, I just heft them and then I give them liquid feed. Around here, I might go 2 weeks at the most when we can't liquid feed.
Okay.
So I kind of got a little nervous here recently. I had a couple that were light, but because it was a little bit cool, but waited a couple of days and was able to. I'm not recommending this either, but I actually put 1-to-1 on. I don't even go 2-to-1.
So Tom's going to put, I guess, the bubble wrap on underneath its migratory lids, so they don't
That's
connect.
what I do, and I use them for the nukes also, Tom. If you're, I seen him last weekend. Got to spend some time with him. So
Yeah, well, tell us about that, JW. How that? I know it was a 1-day conference in Illinois.
it was. They did a very nice job. Tom and Melissa was actually kind of in charge of the overall, appeared to me, the running of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I seen you. I seen your picture with both of them and everything.
Yeah. They had Jeff Horsharf was there, and they had Greg Burns there as the speaker, and they had Nathan Coleman from Duck River down there. They all did a nice job. I thought. I didn't, and there were some local people that weren't YouTube name people.
Ricky was there, wasn't he? Ricky with Horizontal.
Yeah. I spent most of my time with Ricky and Jeff for the whole weekend. So. But it was they did a really nice job. It was smaller. They had about 300 people there, I would say, and they had it broke down. They had a beginner session and they had an so-called advanced session. So they had speakers for both the two different sessions. And of course, I was partaking to the advanced section, but I don't know who the beginning speakers were, but they had everyone seemed to be real pleased, and they had several vendors. Hilco was there, and that a couple, of the local major vendors were there. So they had a real nice program. I was impressed for
a 1-day event.
Sure, yeah. And the night before they had a feed. You could sign up for it. It was. If you wanted to socialize, they kind of did it like the Mardi Gras theme, and the food was, I wouldn't say it was outstanding, but it was very edible. It's kind of geared to the Mardi Gras type Cajun type foods, which I'm not a big fan of, but I won't hold out against Joey down there. So,
Not my religion.
But they did a nice job, I thought.
What was the topics, let's say, in the advance?
They did. Greg Burns was mostly on. Jeff did his normal. I'd seen Jeff's before. He did most of his how he got started in his Abbey operation and what he does, for the monks down there in Louisiana, down at Covington. And Greg Burns was strictly queen rearing, the different ways, and he did a nice job. Nathan was all about marketing techniques, which
Was that Nathan from Duck River, you mean?
yeah, and they all give nice presentations. I'm not too much into the marketing aspect of it. I give most of my product away, so I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of friends, then.
Yeah, if I ever could figure out some way to get even, well, I'd have to sell my honey from now on for $500 an ounce, I think, to ever get even with my operation, but I don't do it for profit.
Yeah. So did Greg, I mean, how did he talked about, using the Chinese grafting tool type of stuff?
Yeah, he didn't go into details on specific, the technique to the grafting. He just went through the basics of grafting and
Kind of your different options or something.
right. That's what he did. And
Did he cover anything about setting up a queenless hive for a cell builder and that kind of thing?
yeah, he did do some things of that nature. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I find a lot of folks. In our Maryland State Club, it's they want 20-some people and they learn how to graft, and I'm like, are you going to teach how to set up a cell builder? And they kind of skip that.
Well, that's the secret of it. Getting,
I was going to say.
most people, in my opinion, and I certainly don't profess to be an expert in any manner, but most people don't get enough bees in those cell builders. So that's, if you have failures, that's usually due to lack of
Cell builder.
Yeah.
I mean, understanding how to set up a cell builder to get the high optimal percentage of success, it's more in the cell builder than anything else.
But I tell people, when you think you got that cell builder full, throw about 2 more frames of nurse bees and 2 or 3 more frames of nurse bees in there. Just pack them in there as hard as you can get them. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to do some video work on that this summer. Hopefully, I'm going to try to. I've seen a couple of different ways of doing it. Either you set up a single cell builder, it's a cell builder finisher without any queen, or one where it's a, you put a double screen board in between the 2 boxes and still keep it a queen right hive, and do it that way, and all that kind of stuff. And I've tried the queenless cell builder, and I've been successful in the first couple years. Hey, Ian, good to see you.
There's Ian.
Thanks,
Hey.
Ian.
Hey, Charlie, I'm going to have to jump off here. I'm going to listen, but I got to get back onto this food.
All right.
All right. Good talking to you guys.
All right.
Okay.
That's the one that could tell you a lot about the reflectance right there.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that I had issues of trying to get the amount of bees in a single nuke box that's going to be my cell builder finisher. And
You talk about 5 frame nukes.
yeah, that's what I use. I don't really.
Yeah.
I find
Well,
that just as well.
That's what I use also. I've got a couple Apamays that's 7 frames that I use for queen rearing.
Well, I've got a insulated license hive. It's a 6 framer.
Yeah.
I thought about doing that, but the problem of it is, and that's another downfall of these, is that most of the bottom boards are attached to the bottom box on those units. And yeah, Vincent, yeah, that's what I use as a 5 frame box.
Yeah.
cell builder to make a cell builder. I mean, you're only going to put in, I put in maybe 30 cells, 30 grafts, and it works fine as long as you got enough bees in there.
No, I never use that. I never have a need for that many grafts at a time. I seldom ever do over 10 at a time,
Well,
And if
I'm
I'm lucky, I get 50% maybe.
how much?
If I'm really good, I get 70%. And my average
7%.
my average would probably be 50.
No, I like to get about 80 or 90%.
I like to cut out swarm cells about as well as anything and use them, so.
And all that. But talking with a friend of mine, the big thing about if you're just going to use a single nuke box, let's say a 5-frame deep, or you could maybe do it a double, a regular 10 frame, 5/5, is the fact that you got to build that. Well, you could take queen excluders, pull your brood above the queen excluder, i.e. cap brood, so they don't make any swarm cells. And then, of course, the nurse bees will come up and cover it. And usually I've found when I've done that, it takes about 15 or 20 minutes. You can be going down. I have a row of nukes, let's say, and you go by the time you get down the row of nukes and maybe do a few other little things, you can go back and you'll have let's say it was 1 frame. You'll have a frame full of bees, and they're all nurse bees, and there's definitely no queen. Gather all them frames and, put it in one hive. And I was talking to my friend of mine. I said, how do you get that, about hatching and stuff? Of course, you want cap brood that's dark, meaning it's older and it's going to hatch out pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, start this about 10 days at least, 10 to 14 days in advance. That way, your, the brood will be hatching. And then go ahead and put your graft in there, and you should have good success and all that. And so that's one way of doing it. I'm going to try.
Yeah.
And then I've got nukes here that's got queens on them. I have a double screen board for a nuke, and I'm going to basically put the queen and all the brood upstairs, and put nurse bees and stuff downstairs. And one thing that I noticed in 2 different videos, that they only put the graft in the bottom. They did not put any brood frames in the bottom, like cap brood. And they did shake a ton of nurse bees in there. And then they, that way, and they put some frames of pollen and food in there. And that way, the nurse bees only focused on one thing, and that was that grafting frame. And you had about an 80 or 90% success rate in this video that I was watching. And then, of course, you have on the double screen, you got the entrance out the back, and all the other bees will come around and go back into the bottom of the hive. And that builds up even more bees in the bottom of the hive. And which he had a good, within 24 hours, he had a good success rate as far as you could see in the cocoon starting to being drawn down. He actually took them out. He actually switched the boxes around and put the grafts above and the queen below with a queen excluder. And personally, I would just leave them in there and let them cap in 6 days. And then I like taking them frames out and put them in an incubator and let them hatch in the incubator and stuff like that. So that's how I'm gonna, you can do it a lot of different ways, a lot of different variations of everything. My biggest thing is being able to get a high graft rate, acceptance rate in that cell builder. So I'm trying to do it relatively easier, I guess, as easy as possible. Set that box up.
Yeah. Well, I'm not building nukes to sell or anything, so I don't do big numbers at a time. You know, if I can go 10 or 15, you know, grafts, why? And if I get, on occasion, I'll get 100%, but I'd say my overall average over the years is 50 would probably catch it, maybe 60. You know,
60 queens.
no, 60%
Oh,
takes
okay.
on my graphs. No,
Well, if I can get 80 or 90, that'd be great.
yeah.
And but I mean, I sell nukes, a small amount of nukes. About the most I've ever sold is 20 nukes. A lot of work to it. There was a lot of latecomers, you know, in the season getting nukes, and I've already sold out for this year. I got about 10 or 12 or 13 of them sold, and a little bit more than I wanted to. I like to have a little bit of a buffer there. So I am revamping my system here where honey sales have really increased, and I'm adding on 2 more honey production hives and reducing my nukes down by 4, and which still balances me out at 30 hives altogether.
That's about what I run. You know, I try.
And for me, that's all the hives I really want to attend to. I had been up close to 50. I thought that was my goal, you know, to reach that magic number of 50 hives as a sideliner. And I found it to be, it's just too much work, you know, you're just constantly working 7 days a week. So, I mean, working your day job and then on the weekends, if it turns out that to be. And I have Brian here. He makes 10 to 12 nukes. That's my problem, Brian, is that, as I call it, counting your chickens before they hatch. And I've been caught in that situation. And because I had some, you know, mite problems or whatever it was. And that is one of the things that I don't particularly like about selling nukes, and then trying to getting the public to be here when you want them to be here, because they don't see the urgency of things. I.e., I want the books in your box and you take them home before they swarm and stuff like that, because most of my stuff is jam packed full of bees and that kind of thing. So that's one of my problems, and that's like I say, when I try to sell 10 nukes. That gives me cash flow for you know, paying for miticides and a hive lifter and things like that. You have to unmute yourself, Joey.
10 or 12 of them, that's kind of what I focus on. I want all the rest of them to be mine. Mm-hmm. Now, if something happens and I don't have enough, so I can still, whatever I promised I'd sell, 10 or 12, I'll take the loss on my end that I was going to keep and go ahead and sell those. But,
you guys,
yeah,
you're doing it all wrong, you fellas. I gave 14 away, 14 away last year.
No wonder not making any money.
Well, I get people wanting to buy swarms from me all the time, and I've that one swarm last year that I sold that I did a video on. That's the only swarm I've ever sold, and he was tickled to death with it. You never know what you're getting with a swarm, and I just don't like that, you know.
Well, I've got 4 or 5 young folks in my area that's just getting started. I've been trying to, you know, help them along, and that's I get more enjoyment out of that, and I do the money, so whatever.
Charlie,
well, that's probably what I ought to do, JW, because I don't ever see the money anyway.
What'd you say, David?
I was going to say there was something I've been meaning to ask all evening, About 2 weeks ago, Joseph was on a video with a hive lift. Did you by chance order yours after watching his video?
No, I've been watching Joey's. That's model. Was it a B?
Mine's a B1E.
B1E electric. David, I've been looking at hive lifters for 2 years,
Uh-huh.
and Joey bought his here. What last year, Joey?
Yeah. Well, yeah, something like that. Hadn't been a year ago yet.
Right. It's pretty much the past season.
I bought it last season though.
Right. And I was looking at that one. Brad from up at Faith Apiaries, he has one very similar to that, or pretty much like it. So I was looking at that model and looking how like when Joey comes up with these wheels, you have to kind of push it forward. It sits up on its nose,
Mm-hmm.
and then it grabs the box and all that. And then what I liked about it was when you pull it back, it sits down on its haunches, as I call it, on the wheels, and sits there on an angle and holds the box for you while you're doing something over here. And then I watched Mike Berry. He bought one, at least a year ago. Oh, yeah, it's been almost
He's probably had his 2 years.
2 years. It was like that, which is like the one I got. And his is a B2. Mine's a B3. And mine's hydraulic cylinder. His is, I think there's screws in there that run. So I've looked at all that. I've looked at the videos and re-looked at any videos that they had their lifters in. And Nathan from Duck River Honey, he bought one like mine. And I watched him using his machine. Sometimes he was doing supers. And I'm like, well, why aren't you using your hive lifter, at that kind of a thing? Because he was pulling off a lot of supers up in the air and that kind of stuff. And then I would go to, let's say, Hive Life or, not so much. I was going to talk to Nathan this year, but he seemed like he was always busy interviewing and stuff. And I looked at all that. And I talked to Mike Berry this year at Nobby. And he said, that if he had it done all over again, he would have bought the hydraulic cylinder one like that I was going to buy anyway. So that was interesting. And then I asked him about things that I've watched, what they were doing in the videos on, well, why did you use your foot on the back wheels, And that was to try to pop that darn box off the top or something like that. And just different little things. And after talking to him this year, then it was like, okay, I told him, I said, I want to be able to under super. I want to be able to take the stack off, get into my bottom box, pull the brood frames out that I want to pull out for my demery. And most people don't do what I do, but it doubles my honey production. It pretty much alleviates all swarming. For me, at the amount of hives I have, I can do this. If you're Ian Stepler or somebody that's got 100 hives, it's not quite as doable as far as this demery method thing. And but it works for me. And Mike said, for what you want to do, under supering, getting into your bottom, moving the top off, and then putting it right back on, that the B3 would be ideal for that. It's what it's kind of designed for. So after talking to him and, like I say, looking the things over for a couple of years, I went ahead and bought it. It was still one of them things. I wish I could have handled it first. I wish that Boris was at Nobby, demonstrating all the models that he has. That would have been I've been wanting to see that for 2 years, but he doesn't come out, doesn't cross the, come in from one country to the other. And so I just had to kind of research it and then, make a decision, say, okay, let's take a chance and buy it,
What I like about your model, you can roll it up there and you can kind of see your grabbers when they get even with the handles. You
Right.
see where your grabbers are, and you can just roll back and forth. With my model, you have to stab the ground in the right place. And the closer your hive is to the ground, the easier that is to figure out. But
Well,
when
see, that's what
you're up
those
on
are
a
the
rock
little
and a rail,
those are the little innuendos that
yeah, you may
I've
have
been,
to back it up a
I
little
would
bit.
sit there and pick everybody's brain about. I
Yeah,
want to know all these little minute details that nobody talks about. It's just like I seen yours, and I seen you. I think you had a piece of coroplast sticking in the way, and you had to put your foot down in order to get
yeah.
that base of that hive to get it
I
close
had to
enough.
pin that chloroplast down.
Yeah, to get it close enough in order to pick the box up.
Right.
Then I saw on Mr. Ed's where you went down and helped him out move them 15 hives that you could not pick a box up from the front where the landing board was
Right.
because you couldn't get close enough. So I seen that kind of stuff, and that's where I said, okay, I feel confident enough that buying the B3 is going to suit me much better.
Let me
And
ask you fellas this on those. Will those go in like most of my stuff? I'm trying to go to about all 8-frame stuff. Will they go in? They're adjustable in and out, I'm sure. How about
Yeah.
it? Would they go down to 5?
no,
They wouldn't go
No,
down to
I
nuke
don't think
size.
so.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
would
think
have
they're going to go down to 8-frame either. I mean, my when I did that test on the video, I had my arms all the way in tight, and it was
I
so close.
said yeah, but I better check that. I better check that before I answer that question.
That was a good observation about the 8 frames. I was kind of curious about that myself.
Right.
How wide is an 8-frame? I'll go measure mine right quick.
Well, it's 2 frames narrower than a 10.
So what's
17 and a half, I think. I think.
isn't it 16 7/8 on
Yeah,
a
they're
10
right.
frame?
Yeah, you're right. 16, 7, 8.
16 7/8, somewhere's in that neighborhood. And I would say an 8-frame is going to be 14 7/8. Let's say 15 inches, somewhere's around that.
I don't know. I made a bunch of hive stands today for them, but I forgot already just how wide they are. But I cut my stand 17 and a half from 8 frames, where they're 17 and a half wide, where they'll sit inside of them.
I'll
Well,
be right back.
I'll say this. You're on single individual hive stands, like right behind you there.
Mm-hmm. That's what I do. I build everything's on single stands.
Well, instead of coming in from the back, you can come from the side because the length of that box is the same as a 10 framer.
No, they're 22 inches.
They're all standardized.
Yeah.
So you come that way. Now, that's where you would have to tell Boris up there that makes these machines.
Yeah.
This is what you want. You want to come from the side. You want to come from the back. And that crossbar that you see me put on where those arms put in there, that might change in width or whatever.
Well, like I said, I've got a little tractor with forks on it that I actually move my whole hives with at a time. But the problem with it's hard to see those forks. You understand? They're blocked off by the frame of the front end loader.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll probably never buy, like what you got there, Charlie. But I was just curious if you were to buy one, how close together you could get those arms to go.
I know you can't do 5-frame.
Yeah. Okay.
With 5-frame for me, I mean, you should be able to lift that off by hand. It's easy.
Well, it's not a matter. I was just talking in reference to moving, like Joey did for Jeff down there in Louisiana, moving whole hives at a time.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, moving the whole darn hive. Yeah, that would be. I would think that I could probably adjust the arms on this unit to come in sideways. But the only problem with my hives is the fact that I have 4 nukes per rack.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not going to really work that well. So
got 4 nukes. You got 4 nukes on per pallet. Is that the way you got your nuke set up there?
I don't have a pallet. I have just a long rack.
Okay.
It's about 7 feet long, with
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
two bars like that.
Yeah.
And I got them set out where I've got cross arms between the two. It's 5.5 inch. I'm getting some, my help's going to build them for me here. I got a plane to lumber up. It's 1.5 inches of 5.5 pieces. They're going to be 7 foot and so many inches. I got the measurements in my pocket. And then I put a crossbar, piece on each end. And I think 2 or 3 in the middle. It works out to where when I put a nuke in, I can take the strap down across the bar in the frameworks and underneath and back up, and it'll hold that nuke in place with a ratchet strap.
Yeah.
And I originally thought I would put eye hooks, and I ordered all these darn eye hooks, and I'm like, I don't need to do this because my ratchet straps are long enough to go around and all, except when I get my honey supers on them highs in the back here. Sometimes I got so darn many honey supers on, and they're so darn tall that I have the ones that have eye bolts. I actually hook them with the eye bolts and stuff.
Well, let me ask you this: with all that stuff on the ground, do you have any trouble with skunks or coons or anything bothering them?
No, that's another thing. Like the highs behind me, I used to have them up on cinder blocks, up in the air, higher. Well, because I'm stacking honey supers on, I'm like this.
Sure.
And I'm standing up on a ladder almost. And it's like, it's killing my shoulders, Yeah. So I put cap blocks on, which are 3.5 inches thick, I think, and 8 inches wide for when you're capping off of a wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then that reduced the hive stack down by at least a medium super. Doug says that probably Boris would probably make them for any size hive.
I was just you took the words out of my mouth. I just seen that Doug had posted up there that he'd make one probably smaller where they'd reduce in more. But like I said, I'm probably not a market for one, but I was just curious as to how tight they would in case you wanted to. It'd be handy to move hives, but I'm normally talk about not this.
Well, like when I moved those hives there behind me, they used to be up on the hill there, but I have, a 4-wheel drive front end loader with forks on it.
Sure.
And I took and strapped the hives down to the frame, the rack, as I call it. And then I went in there and I raised that rack up with the front end loader, and I was carrying 2 hives. I actually ratchet strapped the rack to the fork so it wouldn't slide off. Yeah. And then I had a young guy there that I had him, screened in and all that. And I had him walk them down. He steadied them as I eased that loader through the field there in the middle of the winter. And then I had the racks, what do you call it, already made. So all I had to do is strap the hive, make a strap around the hive, and then the strap acts as a handle. 2 guys, one on either side, and we can raise that hive up or raise it up enough where we can slide it over across onto the next rack if it's too heavy. Yeah. All that.
15 1/4 inches is as tight as it go.
Okay.
Now David says
I don't know how wide a box is, but that channel that slides over the bar, if it's fairly close already, you could probably trim some of that off. So that would probably be an easy modification.
If it'd go into 15 1/4, that would handle an 8 frame, And that's not counting. Is that counting the tabs, the flipper tabs, or is that counting the bars?
Well, he's got a guide on there on the back of it. He's got these little guides that you close up to the box, and then you can tighten everything down. Just leave a little slack, and that's what I'm talking about. That's 15 1/4, as tight as it'll go.
Mhm.
The 8-frame boxes off of the Hillco website was listed as 13 3/4 wide.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think you
So,
could make it work though. Like I say, the channel that slides over, all you'd have to do is shorten them up to get there.
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. I just slid those arms in and just locked them in place. Now, the one thing I did they have those wing nuts, that locks them in place. And I
Yeah.
actually had to back them out. I don't know whether he had Loctite on them or something, but there was a kind of like a plastic film on there. It might have been, maybe it was from the wrapping that they had. And I had to take a brush and whatever and clean all that threads off. And then after that, they went in those holes really nice and snugged everything up. And
Yeah.
then the only other modifications I did to this hive lifter was on the wheels that are plastic at the hub, at the shaft, and they got a cotter pin in there. Well, I went ahead and got flat washers and put that in, and then the cotter pin, so the cotter pin wouldn't
Yeah.
uh, dig into the wheels. And then on the main, uh, on the little wheels, I didn't have to do anything extra, but I had enough space there where it had that little plastic spacers. They're just made out of looks like water pipe to me almost, or plastic electric conduit or
That's
something.
all it is.
So there was plenty enough room where I could put the washers on, flat washers, and put the cotter pins in on the back ones. On the front one, I could put it on the one side, but the other side was too tight. So I looked at it and it looked like he had cut it a little bit off kilter. So the flat washer was about 1/8 of an inch in thickness. So I took it out to the bandsaw out here at the shop, and I I put a fence up and turned it and cut that little bit of 1/8 of an inch off. And then I had a belt sander there that I just kind of dressed it up nice and smooth and flat, and took all the burrs off of it and stuck it on there and put the flat washer on there and worked out nice. So that was the only thing that I added to it, was some 4 flat washers. Everything else went together really nice. Like I said in the video, all the parts had the bolts already in them, so there wasn't any guesswork. Well, what size bolt goes here or there? And um, the only thing the crate did come. There was some damage a little bit on the crate where something hit the crate and broke like a little hole into the crate. And then that's, if you watch me, I'll kind of look down in there real quick, and there wasn't any damage to the unit at all. It didn't touch anything, so that was luck.
Well, come on.
So
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting me some forks for mine because I've used it just like it is to lift my RV generator up and put it on the back bumper. I normally
well,
use my tractor bucket for that and pick it up and down, but I said, let's try that. And it worked pretty good. If I had a real set of forks on it, it'd work better.
I have a set of bucket forks. Comes in handy for moving long hives around.
Yeah.
yeah. Now
I
Moore's
was a
here.
couple of days doing that, David.
Yeah, Moore's here. He's the truck driver. He was telling me that's why he wasn't able to come in tonight. But he's grown his apiary. He can't he's can't decide between 8-frame and 10-frame. Pros and cons. Well, pros, 8-frame is a little lighter than 10-frame, depending on whether you're talking deep frame boxes or medium boxes. My experience, I got a young guy that he happened to buy a guy out, which happened to have 8-frame equipment. And I've been helping him out. And Nancy runs 8-frame. The 8-frame is lighter. That's the main thing. A little bit lighter. 10-frame is I'm going to say pretty much standard equipment across the board. You know, if you're trying to get rid of stuff or buy stuff, you're going to probably run into 8, 10 frame 9 times out of 10. Um,
Well, being in New York State, I can tell you that every place that sells boxes carries both 8 and 10 frame.
yeah.
The cons are really, or the pros are really just the weight.
But now the one thing that I noticed in the guy that I'm helping out, he had 8 frame. Now I'm used to single brood chamber management, i.e., he had mediums and he did have deeps. And I said, we were trying to do just one single deep. And it don't sound like much, 2 frames less, but it's a little bit more compact, you know, as far as you might need to add something, you know, either 2 deeps or, and then a honey super, or let's say a deep and a medium for your brood chamber box to give it that little bit extra space. That's what I kind of noticed with it. Is I'm used to 10 frame, and I'm used to that, you know, okay, this 2 medium 10 frames or 1 deep 10 frame will work as far as the volume of bees. But it seemed like we had to add, I forget what we did last year, but we had to, I think it was mediums. We had 2 mediums, and I found that we actually had to add 3 mediums in order to create the volume that was needed to keep the bees in the box and stuff and that kind of thing. So,
All I know to say is just decide what you want to do yourself and go with that. Stay with that plan.
Yeah.
Because I started off with not necessarily 8 frames. I've got 10 frame everything, but I decided after the fact, after I had a bunch of mediums and deeps, that I'm going to go all deeps. And I still haven't, for the last 7 years, got away from all the mediums yet. I guess I should have sold them to somebody. I keep saying when they wear out, I won't ever get no more mediums. But that's just me. But
there's
you
a,
just pick one with
The
it.
answer is it's not really.
Yeah.
It's a matter of choice, and it looks
Yeah.
like Morris there in the homestead is a younger fellow, so it just be a matter of choice. Does it make any difference to the bees? No, you can put them in a log or or anything else. They're going to be happy as long as they like it. If they don't like it, they don't make any difference what you put them in. They're going to abscond and leave on you anyway. So
Yeah.
whether
the
it's
the main thing, Morris, is that you have to make it that you're at a point, you're at the starting point. So right now is the best time to make that decision. You either go one way or the other. Don't try to run 2 different sizes. And now for me, I started out with 2 double deeps, 10 frame. And then I found I've always had lower back issues. I've hurt my back and everything. That's why I bought the hive lifter. And I went from deeps to all mediums. I got one size box, one size frame, and it all fits everything. I can take brood frame out of the bottom and put it up into the supers. Or let's say a queen got up in the supers, and I can put that super frame down into the brood frame box. So that kind of stuff. Now let's see.
Now
Tom.
here's one. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tom, where's here we go? They all run 8 frame production highs.
Here's one thing I can say. Where you talking deeps deeps or mediums that you want to run, or 8 frame or 10. If you running 8 frames, um, adding the next box doesn't, I guess, for lack of a better word, demoralize them as fast as you would if you were going with all 10 frame boxes and throwing another 10 on top of it. There's less space at one time that those bees have to make up for as far as volume and heating and everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they'll build out a smaller box. Would that be
Because you
5, 8,
yeah,
10 faster than they will the
I
10?
know a guy that runs it's all 10 frame, but he runs deeps and mediums. But for himself, for his honey production hives, he runs all mediums.
Mhm.
He said, I can make them fill a medium up and stack another medium up there and have it almost full as fast as I can make them fill all deeps up. Because you're doubling. If you got one deep box, you're doubling that space when you throw another deep on there. And you can look at that same principle if you work in 8 frames. You're adding a smaller space at a time. I don't know if I made sense out of what I said or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Welcome, Ricky.
Thank you, Ricky.
Well, I've got unfortunately, I've still got about 20 10 frames colonies, and I've got about that many 8 frames, and then I've got my 5 frame nukes. So I'd suggest anybody that's going into it for the long haul, try to get everything. My suggestion would be try to get everything the same sizes, not to go different size hive boxes.
Well, it depends. I mean, Tim here, they they run, what is it, deeps for the honey for the brood chambers and 8 frame mediums for the supers. So they're kind of doing the what would you call it, the what we used to do all the time, and that kind of thing. Um, Now, like I say, it all depends on what you want to do. I went the all medium route, and it just kind of works for me. And another thing that I didn't like about it was that when you pull a deep frame up and I want to flip it, there's so much more weight
Yeah.
on the when you flip. Where when you flip a medium, it's easy. It's smaller, and all that kind of stuff. Now, the downside of all this is that right now I have 3 medium boxes as my winter stack profile. So I got 30 frames to deal with versus if you're doing deeps in your brood chamber area, then you're only talking either 16 or 20, depending on whether it's 8 or 10.
Yeah.
So there's your pros and cons there. And that kind of stuff. Now,
I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
what the
I
cost
don't
per
agree.
the difference between an 8 and 10 frame box, say deep box. Is there a cost difference between those two boxes?
They'll run about the same, Joey. Every place
Yeah. I do know comparing a medium and a deep on either one. Last time I checked, a medium costs almost as much. A medium box and the frames cost you as much as a deep box
Yeah.
and all the frame.
Yeah, he's talking about they don't get their combs mixed up. That's something that I do watch myself. I don't like mixing brood comb up with honeycomb. I try to keep all that separated. But there is sometimes that how you'll get a one where a rogue queen will get up in your honey supers and lay it up a little bit, and then it kind of discolors that area because it had brood in it. But that's where I kind of go through my combs. Most of I just kind of I go through it and kind of inspect it I get ready for the springtime and all that because I put a lot of the freezers like you said in my video, those were all full of comb. That's what they're full
Yeah.
of. I leave them in there all winter long, and I'll happen to have some space to do all that stuff.
As to Mike, I would guess the difference between the full 8 and the full 10 would be about 20 to 25 pounds for
Yeah.
extraction weights.
Yeah, I'll be back in a minute.
I saw somebody that made that weight comparison one time before, and I can't remember exactly what it was. But I know you can get a 10 frame box with a good amount of honey in there. It can get around 80 pounds
Yeah.
easy.
And your eights will run 50 to 60, I'm going to say, depending upon, if you're talking about deeps
Yeah.
in both instances. I'll tell you what I call it, fellas. I call it heavy and extra heavy.
Yeah.
There's a difference. The eights are heavy and the tens are extra heavy when you get older.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason I do a lot of the honey harvesting the way I do.
Sure.
Everybody says you picked them big. That's before I had a hive lifter. Now they said you picked them big boxes up. I said nope. I said when it's honey harvesting time, I have an abundance of nuke boxes. They're empty. I load them on the trailer and I go out there and I pull any of the deeps. I pull 5 frames out and put it in a nuke box. Grab me another nuke box and pull the other 5 out, and I close them up. Bees can't get to them. Now the mediums, I might pull them, and I may, if it's full and heavy, I may go ahead and pull a few out and get it all to the truck. But that's the way I pull deeps.
Now, something I was thinking about is you could take a 10 frame box and put a feeder in it, and now you got an 8 frame box and all that. I've seen that. A lot of guys will run frame feeders in like 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons. I don't knock 2 frames right out in a hurry.
I do that on my 10 frames, and I put that feeder and I leave it empty. I leave it in there year round. I don't put sugar water in that, but I use it for insulation on the upwind side, or for protection for the bees. I leave the feeders right in there. Use that for insulation. On the on the upwind side of the on the hive.
Yeah, Jeremy said the same thing earlier. I didn't see that, Jeremy. But
Y'all didn't hear that, did you?
what's that?
I got a hoot owl right here by my window.
Oh, yeah. Now it says you're going to get prices on frames, and where are you going to go to, Morris?
I was just talking to him about going down to Hungry Bear in Canandaigua.
Yeah, well, he was asking last week, where he was trying to find a local place, and I had looked him up on the. Doesn't he live close to Rochester, New York?
Yes, 20 miles the other side of it from Syracuse.
He's to the west of it, and he's close to the Great Lakes up in there?
Yeah.
I think Niagara Falls, isn't it?
No, he's not that far over. Mm-hmm. He's closer to Rochester, and just south of Rochester in Canandaigua, Hungry Bear has they have a bee supply place there.
Yeah, okay. So they have a local bee supply shop.
Yeah. I told him to contact Ben Carpenter.
Well, I'm glad that you're on that, Dave. That way it helps him out.
Yeah, he's the proprietor there.
Being new, getting into it. And it's always good to know around your community where you can find stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like Hungry Bear is part of the Finger Lakes conglomerate, and like Ross Rounds is part of that conglomerate of several things they do there.
Well, I don't quite understand. I mean, a conglomerate, a business conglomerate, or a
Yeah, I mean, you get multiple. The Finger. If you look at Ross Rounds, it'll talk about the Finger Lake something
is that
bee
where?
supply or something,
Mhm.
and Hungry Bear is just a part of that.
Hmm.
Hungry Bear is also a Man Lake distributor.
Hmm. But yeah, I'm glad that you were there, like, to help him out, because I was trying to. Actually, I was trying to look around myself through the Google map, and I couldn't find anything that, of course, that recognized that it popped up that I would recognize
Uh,
and all that stuff. But
yeah,
you know,
I've been to Hungry Bear quite a few times.
are they pretty good as far as pricing? I guess.
Yeah, they're not bad. I mean, they're basically your price is the same as Man Lake since they're a
Right.
distributor for Man Lake.
Oh, they are a distributor.
Yeah.
Okay, so are they all right? That's I get it now.
Yeah.
Will your dog
All right, good night, Ed.
up front?
And like about an hour south of me in Oxford, New York, is Cutix. They're northern.
Well, I've been there.
You've been up to
To Chuck's.
Cutix?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was up there. We went up there.
Uncle Pete, I doubt that he's.
Hold on. We went up there. I thought I was going to go to EAS when I was up at Cornell, and I don't know. The more I looked at it, and they wanted all this money, and then the motels were just outrageous in the area for some reason. I don't know why. And I said, forget it. So my friend that I helped haul bees out of the deep south back to Maryland, he gets his nukes from Chuck Kudik. And so EAS was going to have a queen rearing something or another at his shop over there. So I got introduced. I got Lloyd to introduce me to him, and I went up to his shop there at Kudik's, and then I got to talk to Chuck, and then we went over to where the honey extraction lines were and all that stuff, and they were getting ready for Better Bee was there, and all these different things, and so I went ahead and did my video work there that day, and he actually asked me to do some photographing for him, but I said I wanted to get back over to where the glass or what's it called? Cornell? No, Corningware.
Yeah, Corning.
Go over to Corning, in which we had planned to go see this here other historical place, and then so many hours later we had to go to Corning, and I wasn't familiar with the area, so I didn't stay for that party. And that's where I met like Octavia, who's Chuck's nuke production guy. He's actually in partners with Chuck in that way. So anyway, like I say, I got to see his shop there and stuff. It's a nice shop,
Yeah.
So yeah, I know exactly where you're at. So you're north of that.
I'm up by Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking earlier a lot about queen rearing.
Mm-hmm.
I have two Amish beekeepers, all within 6 miles of me. Abe Yoder turned over his queen rearing business to Wayne Troyer, and it's like I don't need to raise queens myself. I got Amish doing it for me. So.
And how much are made at Queens?
Wayne charged me $35 for a mated queen.
That's about right.
Little how is your crow population? Oh, I don't know what that is about. Actually, if anything, how is the seagull population? I'm about less than a quarter mile from the county dump. And I never see a seagull on my property.
Yeah, I mean, if you can buy them, I don't know.
Actually, I kind of go with JW's swarm cells for queen production.
Mm-hmm.
It's much cheaper.
It is. That's why I like to graft. But I'll tell you now, like back to my Demery method, where I put a nuke box or a brood box up on top of my honey stack. If you bring out a frame of eggs up there along with other brood or whatever, they'll make you queen cells. They'll start making within 3 days, and it's like it's like almost making a walk away split. Only it's in the same hive, and if you wanted to, let's say you kind of made a split and you put it up on top of your stack like that, they make the queen cells. As long as you got them out of there once they cap, and put them in their own nuke box or something like that, and there you go. There's a quick, easy way of doing it as far as your queens go.
Yeah.
Hey, Todd, got back from the big corporate meeting, I guess.
Charlie, what I did last year one time, this was that mean hive I had. I finally found that queen. It took me a couple of years to actually find her. And my idea, I was going to cage her, and I caged, it was a double deep. I caged her and rubber banded her into a frame in the top. And I said, I'll come back in a few days when all the eggs are gone and kill her and put a cell in. And when I came back in like 7 days, and I had 14 capped queen cells in that hive. I had to go through, and because she was locked up, I guess she quit laying. They just assumed something was wrong with her, and they made queen cells, and her still there. So,
well, I mean, that's what I'm saying about this here, Demery. Queen's down in the bottom box, and then you have 2 honey supers, and then a box on top of that where your brood is. It's far enough away that there is a lacking of pheromones being passed from where the queen is at, that they think their queen is upstairs, and they'll start making queen cells. And all that kind of stuff. So that's some of the things. I mean, when I first started out, I mean, maybe Morris and them guys listening in, that I always thought the pheromones was like perfume or smell, and that's how everything was communicated. And I did find out, more recent, I guess you would call it, that's why the double screen board is important, is the fact that the pheromones are actually passed by antennae touching each other from one bee to the next, and mouth parts and things of that nature. And that's where the double screen
they can still get the pheromone that they're related between a double screen. That's why it's easy to just pull that screen and combine them back together.
Right.
But they do have to touch for the queen.
The double screen breaks the communications because they can't touch each other. Let's say with their antennae and stuff like that, and everything like that.
That's why Bob Benny says a 3/8 board. I build mine out of 3/4. I just buy 3/4 for pretty much everything. but he says I think it's a 3/8 he uses. It might be 5/8. He said that's plenty of space because they can't touch each other through there.
Right. I think it's
I,
that.
I guess. Do you have just a single entrance on your hives?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess they just don't visit each other up there or something. No, they don't. They that far apart. 'Cause-
I guess that's what it is. Or the pheromones, as far as even touching. Um, I don't know. There was some theory about if you have a packed hive of bees, that the pheromones are weaker, I'll say, because there's so many bees around that are passed around that the pheromones get, um, I don't know, diminished, I guess you'd say, or
yeah,
diluted, more or less diluted, and that kind of stuff.
makes sense.
Yeah, Roy, I've tried. I actually met Mel. He came to one of my conferences, and he was doing OTS and stuff, and it does work. And it's where you're breaking down the bottom cell wall. So instead of bringing that larvae out and down like this, it's already got a slant down, and that's the purpose behind that. It does work, I understand. I think Brad from Faith Apiaries actually did that the first year.
Hmm.
And all that stuff. So, but no, a lot of different ways. It just kind of depends on how comfortable and successful, I guess it is, depending on how you go about, grafting or making queens and stuff like that. I was going to try NICOT system and try this system and OTS and all that. So I wound up down in um, Knoxville, Tennessee, and I can't think of his name right now. Um, he's a queen breeder down in Kentucky, and he taught me how to graft along with about 25 of us in a class down there. It was one of these local conferences in the area that was something new and different for me to go to. And I said, is this all, 5 minutes later, I'm grafted. He said, that's it. I'm like, you're kidding me. That's it. He said, yeah, I just got to get the right age larvae. I kind of figured that out when I got home, and I've been doing that for like the last, one year I didn't do a whole lot of grafting. It was just, I don't know, between the weather was cold late in the spring. I didn't really, yeah, Kent Williams, that's who it was. And thanks, Brian. Anyway, I started doing the grafting part. And I'm like, heck, this is the way to go. So I enjoyed that. And then I found that, if you left the frames in your cell finisher, they would put webbing or burr comb between the cells, and that was a pain trying to cut that out. And so that's when I made my own little self-made incubator up, and I would take the cells out after 6 days. As soon as they cap them, I'd take them out, put them in the incubator. Then 1 year I would put the cells within a day or two of hatching in my 2 framers for mating and all. And then you're always trying to go back and see whether or not they had emerged and all that stuff. And then you really should not mess with them. But then I started here in the last year or so where I just leave them in the incubator, let them hatch. I can see them, and then I can just walk them into the 2-frame mating boxes and let it go at that.
And do you mark them first? Do you mark them before you use them, Charlie?
No, I don't. I don't mark them. People have said you can do that without any problems. The only thing I can tell you is that I marked 4 or 5 queens in my row right behind me there last summer, so I could find the queens quicker. So when I'm shaking, pulling out the brood and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I wound up with four dead queens, 4 or 5, and I had enough nukes there that I could, repopulate real quick right here in the middle of the darn honey flow at all times. And I said, all right, from then on, I am not going to mark them. I'm going to shake the bees off and let it go at that. I'll look for her on the frame. If I can't find her, shake the bees off gently and put that brood up in that other box. And then Tom says that Kent's going to be at their club meeting on March the 12th. And then April the 18th to the 20th. I know that Kent always had that bee school, I'll call it. It's free on his farm. And I had thought about going to it, but I just never got there. And they do grafting and stuff like that. And all. It's quite, if you're a beginner and want to know how to install a package, he'll make a package up right there for you and show you how to do it or help you do it and stuff. That's the kind of guy he is. He's very helpful and all. So
I've got that Nico system myself. I've used it a couple times, but after I used it a few times, I just found no more queen cells than I need. It's just easy to go pick them up,
Yeah.
yeah.
If I was after a certain queen that I had that I really liked, that would make a good breeder, I would probably use it.
Right. Yeah. Brian was talking about what happened when I marked them. The other thing that I've heard through the years, and I don't know whether this is bee lore or not, is that when you mark them, the bees can smell that paint, the acid or the alcohol that's in the paint. And I left them in the cage and let them dry for several minutes. And then I just let them back into the hive. And then all of a sudden they're gone. And I'm wondering whether or not I changed their smell and the bees in the hive thought they were for a foreign bee and they killed the bee. I'm not sure.
Can't take that out.
So, and that kind of thing. So, that's one theory. I do know this, that I had a marking pen one year and I had my pickup truck sitting out in front of these hives. Sun's coming in like this in the evening. I had laid that pen on my seat. And what I usually do, I like to put my hands on the seat for steadiness so I can mark her. And I marked her. Beautiful queen. Within 6 seconds, that queen was dead. And the only thing, what happened was I felt the pin. The pin was hot. So basically, I cooked that queen. That ink coming out of that pin was like boiling liquid, to the bee and all. And Kevin England up in New Jersey, he was stating something, the same similar situation. He was like, I don't know what. And I told him the same story. He says, very interesting, that the ink got hot because when you picked it up, it wasn't like, oh, I had to drop it. It was warm. The casing was. Well, the ink was warm too. And it was warm to us and deathly hot for that queen bee. So I always make sure that I put that pin underneath something and cover it up away from any sunlight. Yep, the ink was hot, Brian. That's what I've come up with. The pin was warm to touch on the casing, but it also warmed up the ink, and it killed that hive, like right now. I possibly could have damaged the queens. I'm not sure, Doug, when I marked them. Yeah, the queen was dead in my hand, as far as the one that I marked years ago. that had that hot ink. That's been quite a few years ago. Yeah, now Tom said they had queens that passed out.
Yeah, I've seen them do that. I've seen
Yeah.
young queens do that. I've seen them faint. First time I saw that, I said, I ain't never seen nothing like that in my life. It was almost like them goats that faint.
Yeah.
She just fell over dead like, and just went right down through between the frames.
Hmm.
And I told a guy about it, and I thought he was going to laugh, and he did, but he laughed because he knew about it too.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people, I have a very hard time picking queens up by, just pick them up by their legs or their wings or whatever. And I don't know. I'm just not real. I still mark some queens, but usually it's a nuke queen that I mark so I can spot her, and then she's in a nuke and down the road she goes and all that. Yeah, Robert, we're still going strong. It's only 20 minutes, 10:45. I'm going to shut it down here in about 15 minutes at all. But so Brian had one faint. As long as you didn't have to give CPR, right? At all. So, but yeah, that's some of the different things I've experienced and all.
Bob must be
Now,
working. I see him on here, but he's not saying much.
I don't know. Here comes Melissa. There she is.
Hello.
So Tom actually just got home from plowing snow. So
Oh, you got snow out there?
yeah, we got about 3+ inches, I guess. 54 yesterday, 29 in snow today.
Huh.
Like, keep it interesting.
Hmm.
Well, you sent something my way, and I don't like it.
Well, it sounds like you didn't get as much as us though, so
It needs too much in my world.
it needs too much.
I hate snow.
Yeah. All right. I got a question to ask Doug from Longman Aprons, and it was, I think he mentioned it in a couple chats ago, that if you didn't want the box to get stuck to the queen excluder, did you say you put Vaseline on the top of the around the rim of the queen excluder? Is that correct, Doug? So he'll put that in the chat. Brian says it's snowing out in Colorado.
When is it not snowing in Colorado this time of year?
Yeah.
And Doug said, yes, that's correct. I said, okay. Well, what I'm going to do is, why I wanted to ask that is I want to be able to, if I got let's say 4 mediums, 3 to 4 mediums on top of that queen excluder, and if I can Vaseline that queen excluder on the top, then I can raise those 4 boxes up without it sticking. So hopefully that'll work out for me. We'll see how that works. That'll be another video test. So anyway, so what's happening? You were talking about on your inner covers that you put screening in.
So yeah, so the hole in the inner cover in the middle.
Yeah.
We always screen those with either window screen or 1/8-inch hardware cloth.
Right.
Because that way, if we want the bees to use that upper entrance, we can let them or not let them. It's kind of up to our discretion. And then also, we use hive top feeders. What are those from Man Lake?
Yeah, they're used ones.
The black ones, like the trough feeders from Man. Those are the feeders that we use. And if you don't screen that, then robber bees or wasps or whatever can get in that hole and get into the feeder, and everything drowns in it. So we just screen them and then flip it so that entrance or upper ventilation or whatever you want to call it is facing up, so nothing can get into that feed either.
Yeah, well now the way I feed mine is I take off the inner cover and just take it away, and then I put that feeder on top, and then I just put the telescoping cover on top of that, and that's it. Now I do have some problem. Sometimes those um, feeders are a little bit uneven, or the cover is uneven, and you'll get your yellow jackets in there and stuff like that. One of the guys that I mentor, he actually got some, what is it, 1/4 inch by 3/8, um, not window screening, insulation. You go around like around a door or something.
Mhm.
It's double. It's got the sticky side on the one side. He put that around the top edge of that um, top high feeder, and then that makes a good seal and keeps the bugs out and all. I haven't done that myself, but and all. So, but I don't really care about the darn yellow jackets. They can die. So,
Hey JW, did you have a good time this last weekend?
I bragged on you. You weren't here. Melissa will tell you, I bragged on you guys.
I told him.
I had to go out and work today, unfortunately.
Well, I figured that's a free service you give to all your landscape customers. That you do the snow removal for nothing, right?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely nothing. Just
Yeah,
the goodness of my heart. That's all it is.
I hear you. I'm into that business myself. Yeah,
so
I thought you folks did a nice job. I did brag on you, so
Good.
I don't throw out compliments very readily, so take that to heart.
Well, we'll take them then.
Yeah,
Well, we appreciate you coming to St. Louis. I enjoyed meeting you in person and being able to visit with you for a little bit. That was pretty good.
yeah. You'll probably get over that.
Well, I figured that you're just a good old boy, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. So,
Well, you got the old part right. I don't know what's good.
so how many participants did you have come to your show?
It was between 280 and 285, and that I think we ended up with what 12 or 13 vendors.
yes, 12.
12 different vendors. So yeah, so we were at between 280 and 285 plus vendors and speakers.
Where's that? If I may interject, where's that honeybee? Where are those folks from? That young couple that had the booth over there by Man Lake.
Man Lake didn't have a booth.
Yeah, Man Lake wasn't.
Or I meant Hilco.
Golden Bee.
Oh yeah,
Golden Bee. Yeah, where are they from?
So they're in Missouri. They're in near Sedalia.
Okay.
his name's Daniel, and I'll tell you what, he is a spectacular person. I'll tell
I
you
met them. Is he Native American or something? Are they?
No, he's actually from
Ukraine.
Yeah, he's from Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
He's been here for, I think you said 30 years, and I'll tell you what, he's one of the most kind individuals that you'll ever meet. But yeah, I really appreciate it. He was really generous and donated a bunch of stuff to the club to be raffled off.
They make their own frames and boxes and stuff. Like their family actually makes them all.
Yeah.
Is he a tall fella with a beard?
Yes.
And a balding or something like that?
That's right.
Yeah.
He is very tall.
I've seen him on the Facebook, I guess it was.
Yep, you probably did.
I think they were at Nobby also, weren't they?
Say again?
I think they were at Nobby also, weren't they?
He didn't have a booth, but he was at Nobby, yes.
I met him at Nobby, I think.
You could have. Yeah, he was there. I had been messaging him back and forth on Messenger a little bit before we went, and I said, if I can catch you, I'd like to stop you and meet him face to face, because before then I'd only met him just briefly a couple different times, because he is in Sedalia, which is about the middle of Missouri. And so it's probably a couple of hours from where I'm at. And when I've needed frames, he also runs a trucking company too. He stopped here near my area and delivered the frames to me. We'd meet at a location where he can get his tractor trailer off the road, and we just pull a pallet of frames off the back of the truck and slide them into my pickup truck or on the flatbed, and
Be on our way.
He had good luck with those frames. He's about the cheapest of anyone around.
Oh yeah.
I've been using them for the last 2 seasons, and I've turned a couple other people on to him. Another gentleman that actually was one of the speakers at our event. His name is Jim Masucci.
He did the Varroa talk.
Yeah, he's a real talented individual. Been in research for a number of years, and I turned him on. He actually called me the other day and said, "Hey, I'm going down to pick up a pallet or two, or a couple pallets of frames. Do you need any? I'll pick them up for you." And I said, "Well, not yet, but I will. I'm kind of running out of storage spots, so I need to use up what I've got first." So
I bought a couple cases off of Hilco there, and I looked at their frames, but I'm a little bit reluctant to buy frames from someplace I don't know for sure. So
Friends with them on Facebook.
yeah, that's it, Joseph.
I may be too. I'm not sure.
We bought plenty of other things from Hilco that day.
I think it was Melissa that purchased most of those
No,
things.
it certainly was not Melissa.
Well,
We all have.
Chris Summers was helping Hilco, so John didn't have any from his shop, but Chris had a couple of cases. I wanted a couple of cases of Deeps.
Yeah.
And he brought them in from Kansas City, so I got them off of him. So, the money went to John, I suppose. But I don't know what their relationship is. I guess Chris Summers is now Hilco West. Is that what your understanding is?
I don't know exactly what that is. I do know that Chris is now working for John. I don't know how that works, but I'll tell you, both of those guys are great guys. So
Sure,
I don't have a problem dealing with either one of them.
No problem at all.
It's nice building some of those contacts with those guys, just some great individuals that have good products that will stand behind them too, It isn't just about the sale for them. It's after the sale too. So I can appreciate that.
But this Chris that we're talking about, you guys out east, I don't know if you know who he is. That's that little gal, that Natalie, Beekeeping with Natalie, that has YouTube. That's her dad.
Yeah. I was talking to her dad about maybe you can come up, JW, not too far from you. One of these meetings here later on this year, we're going to try to get her to give a presentation at our club meeting. So
I've seen some of her presentations for a kid. She does a really nice job now.
I think so too. It's got to take a lot.
She was up in Illinois this year,
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if you heard her or not, but she did a pretty good job. She's a little nervous, but she did a pretty good job at Illinois, I thought.
Well,
at the Quincy one?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we were up there and listened to her. I know there's something to be said there for that young individual getting in front of a couple hundred people and be able to give a presentation. That takes a lot of guts.
Sure.
I mean, it's not easy to do that. JW will probably tell you all that I look like a fumbling idiot there in front of everybody there that whole time, huh?
I didn't think so. I just considered the source. What is it they call you Missourians? Isn't it just for you didn't get filled in on the show me part of it? In Missouri, maybe you're not catching in. Isn't Missouri the show me state?
Yeah.
So I thought you did a good job, actually.
Yeah, I know there's a guy in our club. I don't think he discovered Hilco recently, but he knew about it and he had ordered some different products here, I think in the last 2 or 3 days ago. And he was quite surprised how I think they shipped like the next day.
Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, it's family owned and it's, hands on. And I said, everybody that I know, there's like Carl here, different ones that bought stuff through Hilco that when it comes to well, I think you were talking about it, wasn't it, where you had issues with a extractor or something, and
Mhm.
John said, I'll drive it down there to you, or whatever the part was,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. And I told him that I said that's the kind of service. I mean, the service is pretty much impeccable.
Oh, I agree.
With
John's not that close to me, so for him to offer that up, and I couldn't ask him to do that. I thought that was, well above and beyond, and it wasn't necessary. But I appreciated him offering that up to me, and that just, again, I think goes to show somebody's character.
Mm-hmm.
I think I own stock in that place. I've got enough of their equipment. I surely own a little dab of stock.
We should too after that workshop last week.
I've got extractors and bottling tanks and extracting tables and everything I got about in the extraction lines. I don't have their bottlers because I don't have a need for it. So
Yeah. JW, how long did it take you to get to St. Louis? Did you say?
About mileage wise, from the shop to my place was 144 mile.
Okay.
That's what the mileage was across from South St. Louis across to my place.
So I'm guessing a little over a couple hours then.
Yeah, just about 2 hours. It's about all interstate for me. So I come in on 64 there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So just across the bridge and down you talk about, you think you're going to need a bigger, I'm getting off the subject to these folks. So you think you're going to use a different venue? I thought the venue was nice. You could use a little bit more room for your vendors. So I suppose you took advantage of the whole facility. So.
We did. We were just about maxed out. It's nice to put more people in there to be able to educate more people and let everybody participate, but we don't want to get it to the point where everyone is uncomfortable. And I think that if we continue to push more people in there, we're going to get to that point very quickly. So I think it's going to be in our best interest as a club to look for a different venue for this next year so that we can be a little more accommodating for space.
Well, I think you guys, what was it? You pushed sales from 200 almost 300 this year. Would you do have to twist his arm?
Well, just a little bit. I guess if you're gonna go for something, you got to go big, right?
Well, I mean, the thing of it is, if you got sales that people are banging on your door to want to come in, and all of that, it's like try to accommodate as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
There was another club here that I was on their chat prior to mine, and they had 2 beginner classes. Both of them are full. And this one lady was on the chat. She waited too late, obviously, and couldn't get in. And it's like, it's like, I don't know. It's just, I hate to see somebody like that. This woman didn't even know what kind of equipment to buy or what to buy or anything.
Yeah.
She was totally in the dark. And I'm like, this person needs a class, something terrible.
For sure.
And all that stuff.
And I think that's what the beginner's class for ours was really designed for. Somebody who has very, very little experience, or more so probably no experience, and they not even having equipment. Because on the beginner side, they were almost urging people the first day is to take home some of the literature that we had presented them with, read it. We presented them with a couple of nice books and read that information. And then we're also going to have a follow-up meeting on the 27th that was included for the beginners. So they were almost urging them to, hey, don't buy bees just yet. Don't buy the equipment just yet. Go home, sleep on it, think about what you might want to do, put together a list of questions. And then when we come back, a couple weeks later for the follow-up, we can answer those questions, and that would be an appropriate time for you to make purchases. That way, you're not just purchasing bees, you're not purchasing equipment.
It's not like high
protective
pressure
gear.
sales.
Yeah, you really want someone to do well and not just get into it and then fail the first year and then put their equipment up for sale. The club really is.
Well, let me ask you this now. Let's see, what was it, last Friday night? Yeah, I had to do a presentation for my bee club's beekeeping 101 class, and we have an actual class that they go for 6 weeks, once a week. Don't you all have that kind of setup?
So we do during the season. There is a
The Great Plains Master Beekeeping Program.
Right. That meets every month, once every month, and as long as
and it's free.
Yeah, there's no cost. Melissa and I are going through it now to get our Master Beekeeping certification. So we're actually, you have to pay for certain aspects of it, but just to come to the class, you don't need to.
So what I'm saying is, you don't actually have a beginners beekeepers class.
Not through the club. No, the club kind of pushes people to join this, the Great Plains program, because it is a free program and it's already happening in our area once a month, right in the area close to where we already have our club meetings. So we kind of push people to that direction because one of our, he was a board member. One of our ex-board members is actually the teacher for that program. Mm-hmm. So we kind of just push them in that direction instead of actually having our own
club
meetings. Yeah.
How much? I mean, is this for an hour or 2 hours for 1 month, or is this all?
So it's 2 hours. It's an hour in the classroom and then an hour in the bee yard.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's every month. There's also a couple of other learning opportunities.
I'm just looking at, like we had 50-some people in the class the first night. And then our teacher goes over, okay, this is number one, the amount of time is expect to keeping bees. This is how much money it's going to take you to kind of get started. And goes over, where to get your bee equipment at, Data and all your major magazines that she has that these companies give out to her to give to the class members. We've already had one father-daughter team, bail after the first night because they weren't committing to that much time or money.
Sure.
And stuff like that. But it's, I don't know. I guess it's different ways of, aspect of doing it. Just like
our club also has a really good mentorship program that's free. So as long as you've taken some sort of beginner beekeeping class, you can register to get a mentor, and our one board member that handles that will pair you up with a mentor.
Yeah, well, that's good.
So they do that.
That's actually better than a class. A lot of ways. Hands-on is always better, I find.
Yeah.
So anyway. Well, I'm going to go ahead and it's 11 o'clock. It's been 3 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream part. Everybody can stay in if you'd like. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Okay.